Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 390th edition of the Boxing Asylum podcast. I'm CEO host Steve Wellings. Joining me on the call, we have Andy Patterson and Ozzy Smith going live on YouTube, 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. You might find us during the week on SoundCloud. We're still there, iTunes as well, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all these other good places. Not on Amazon Podcasts, though, because they seem to have kicked us off for using foul language, apparently. So, we're not on Amazon Podcasts anymore. They said we have to get rid of the foul language and come again. So, fuck them, Andy. We'll be done with them, I think.
How long did we last there?
We lasted a couple of weeks, and it said we have taken you off for whatever reason, and I delved into it, and it said foul and vulgar language, apparently. And to rectify this, you can basically stop using language or stop writing certain things. So I said, fuck Amazon Podcasts.
Yeah, I agree with that one, mate. They just try to stifle free speech, aren't they?
Absolutely, man. They want to trying to shut us down as best as they can. We will not be silenced. Neither will the boys in the chat or the girls or whatever else you identify as. You wouldn't know these days. Leroy Guts is hanging around there. JG, Jim McDonald boxing, Adam Hughes. Shout out to Eggy Phil, Alan, Chris Bray, JG. Who else have we got? If I'm missing you out, then many apologies. Matthew as well is there. Matthew Russell just scrolling on up. Madman. Look at exactly. Steve Martin. Yeah, a few guys were asking me about the thumbnail this week, actually. That's the Order of the Bean Masons. I was talking to Porky during the week, get quite a few texts from Porky. And I said, he said, Sky, it's getting too bad at Sky. I says, Porky, Sky's like a cult. It's like the cult of Sky. It's the cult of the Bean Masons. And Porky thought this was hilarious. So he was going with doing a full sketch in one of his shows this week. So shout out to the Bean and the cult of the Bean Masons, Macklin, Bellew, Nelson, all these other boys. There'll be a horse's head on the pillow. Let's get stuck in then, Andy. First of all, what should we go to this weekend? We've watched Kavelowski, haven't we? We've watched Ugas Sadiq. We'll talk about them later. We'll go over to this British Boxing Board of Control show on BT Sport, starting with Anthony Yarde against Dex Spelman. Spelman's a rough, rugged character. We were looking to see what Yarde would do with him in comparison to future opponent Lyndon Arthur, and he stopped him in the 6th round. Is that job done pretty much for Anthony Yarde? Did he do what you expected him to do, Andy? Were you impressed by his performance?
Yeah, well, I suppose. I mean, that's what I've come to expect of him, to be honest. I know there are a lot of people kind of going about Tonto and the stoppage stuff, but to me, he was taking a bit of a beating, Spelman, actually. And to be honest, there wasn't really much coming back. He didn't really have much really. Okay, he was pushing the fight, sorry, but he didn't really have that pop to really kind of turn Yarde to kind of like really back up, cover up, or hurt him or drop him and stuff. I just thought the way it was going to go, it could have turned ugly pretty quick. And Spelman is obviously is hard, we know his background and stuff. But there's no point the guy just taking an absolute needless beating and then just taking years off his career. So at least he gets to fight another day. He can get maybe get a rematch at some point. Maybe get the loser Yarde against Arthur. That's the fight we expect to happen and stuff. But it was close in the cards. I get it. I really do get it. But in the day as well, I just think in the day it was just down to power levels. I felt. I just felt the way it was going. Spelman was kind of not teetering as such, but he was going about the ring. There's no doubt in my mind he would have kept fighting until he got dropped, stopped, knocked out properly or whatever and that. But at least with this and stuff, I just think it was heading that way. He was going to get a bit of bad beating in the end, so I think it was the right call to make the stoppage. It's just my opinion, though. Some people might have a different take on it and stuff, but I just felt it was leading down the path of a bad beating.
Yeah, I said to Andy there, Ozzy, Deck, we know what we're going to get from Deck. He's 100%, full miles forward, doesn't mess about, gets stuck straight in there. He was going to extend Yarde rounds. The main thing for Yarde ahead of that Arthur fight was to put in a good performance, shed the rust. We know he's had a few personal problems. And I suppose I was a little bit harsh on Deck last week because maybe familiarity breeds contempt. But, I mean, I wasn't diminishing his abilities as a fighter. You know what this guy's going to bring, as I said there. So the fact that Yarde got rid of him in the 6th round is an impressive performance and somewhat of a statement. I know people are... We're having this historical revisionism now on Yarde. He was bossing Kovalev until he got stopped and all this type of stuff. But he gave a good performance against Kovalev. Was it a one-off? Can he replicate that? We don't know. We need to see him up at another level. Got rid of Spelman. If he gets rid of Arthur, we can maybe see him up there again. But this Arthur fight isn't going to be an easy proposition for him.
Not at all. I think Lyndon Arthur's got a horrible style for Anthony Yarde. Dex Spelman showed some vulnerabilities in Yarde. Yarde struggled with the double jab. Spelman landed it at will sometimes, and I thought it was an okay performance from Yarde. I think, look, we know what his power is like. He can clearly hit, and he does pick his shots well. But at the same time, I think there was a lot of stuff that Lyndon Arthur would have been looking at and thinking, well, I'm a level above Dex Spelman, and I can expose that even more. What it is, it's a great fight. What we've got to remember is Yard's been out the ring for a very long time. His last meaningful fight was the Kovalev fight. He had that little tick-over job, in Spain, where he just knocked out some bum in a couple of rounds. It's not really a fight, that. It's nothing. So he's managed to get the ring rust off. I agree. The stoppage was kind of premature because Spelman certainly had his whereabouts. But for me, Yard was well on top, and the shots were starting to become a lot more telling. Spelman's one of them. He'll just keep on coming forward, and you have to nail him to the canvas type of thing. I'm never going to argue at something like that when I thought Yard was winning. Rounds were close, but I thought Yard was winning. They're the sustained beatings that can cause, cause injury type of thing. So I don't mind about that. Spelman will certainly come again. He's already won the English title. Certainly think he's got a place domestically. As for Anthony Yard, he'll be straight back in the gym. And I really do hope we can see the Lyndon Arthur fight later this year, because it's a great fight. And I don't think it's a foregone. Pre-Spelman, I thought Yard would have absolutely destroyed Arthur. However, I'm not so sure now. I think, Lyndon's a very good boxer, has an excellent jab, and he demonstrated things that we haven't seen in the pros against Spelman. So it's not an easy fight, to say the least, and I would go as far as saying it's a genuine 50-50.
Just noticed as well, I meant to mention, Steve, and Ozzy, and that. I remember when Spelman took it, dropped and stuff, he was bleeding for the ear. So I don't know if it was that right hand to the head that actually kind of caused the ear to burst and stuff. But then if you're a referee seeing that, you see blood coming for the ear, you're thinking, all right, okay, you've got to keep an eye on this, because it can also mean something else,
Yeah, exactly that. And look, like I said, he was in the fight, Spelman. It wasn't like literally a one-sided beating. But for me, I thought Yard was certainly starting to take over, and the shots were becoming, like a bit more of a thud, quite more telling. You can probably argue, to be fair, that what was the 15 seconds left of the sixth? You could have at least maybe given the decency to see out that round, or Yard may drop him again, take it from there, and then maybe go into the seventh and see what happens. Yeah, you can probably argue it is a touch premature. I think it's not, I've seen a lot worse stoppages, and it's too easy, we see fights go on too long and we criticise the referee. Then sometimes it's an impossible performance. Some have agreed with the stoppage, others haven't. Therefore, you're kind of in the middle and think it's one of them. But for me, I think, it's a touch premature, but I can see why it was made. And as you say, you start seeing that blood from the ear. It's not, it can be a lot worse than just a little cut. What we've got to remember is the man in the court, Mark Breland, pulled Deontay Wilder out of the Fury fight. Yes, that was more of a sustained beating, but he also put it down to blood in the ear as well, and the ear was bleeding. It's a case of, we'll save you for another day. And I think the referee has saved Spelman for another day.
Yeah, I think blood in the ears is a surefire sign of possible concussion, given the fact that Yard punches so hard. Spelman only fought 8 weeks ago. You don't want to bring in the likes of the Scott Westgarth situation, but there's all these different things all culminating together to suggest why they've made the decision that they did. Just looking down to the undercard, everybody. Jason Chukwu is in the chat, by the way. He said he can't talk, unfortunately. He said don't expect him to get too chatty and jumping on. The StreamYard link is there in the chat. If anybody wants to click it and join us, then you are more than welcome. We have a couple of people lined up. Whether they'll turn up or not, we don't know. Rapping Rob Kelly is en route, though. Anyway, back to that undercard. I'll give my thoughts first, and I'll go to you, Andy. So, Echo Esserman, a unanimous decision win over Cedric Payno. Perfect opponent, I think. Esserman's getting on a bit, 31 years of age. He's called the engine. He was made to work by Payno. He makes mistakes. He crosses the feet, former kickboxer, but he's a guy who can punch. We've seen before against Conor Benn. I think this was the perfect opponent for Esserman. He came through well, not with flying colours. He had his moments. He had a bit of difficulty, but that was the right type of opponent for him. Amin Jahanzeb, showed the moves, didn't he, against Jeremy Quinn? We know what Jeremy Quinn's like. He covers up. He's very solid, astute professional. Did his job as usual. Muhammad Bilal Ali, I think someone mentioned that he was maybe trained by Tundi during the week. And then Richie Woodall was mentioning the fact that it looked like he hadn't had much sparring, which would probably add up given his fight against Ed Harrison. Fair play to Harrison. We always like an underdog story. They tried to take it off him. I'm not really sure what Thomas Tribal was on about there with the old announcement, but Ed Harrison got the win anyway. Kieran Farrell fighter. Joshua Frankham. I don't know what I was doing during that one. I don't remember that fight. That was against Kevin McCauley. I didn't see that one. And Mark Heffron against Denzel Bentley. Start off with that one then, Andy. We had a comment coming in from Big P himself over at Porky's Corner. Porky sent me this just before we went live, Andy. He said, Big P says Heffron has beaten 13 men with losing records. He's another Zelfa Barrett, who's even more wins over men with losing records. Is this now the norm for trainers, managers and promoters, Andy, to pad kids' records out and wait for Hearn to call them, or Warren? Look at Anthony Tomlinson, 13-0, but 11 losing records on his CV. He's picked up trinket belts like Zelfa and Heffron, but none have British title between them, and they are 62, 2-1 between the three of them. So basically, he's going on about Heffron's record, which we have actually brought up in the past. Denzel Bentley would be the opposite, Andy. He's pretty decent opposition, considering the fact that it was only his 14th fight. But Heffron hasn't really stepped up, and the times that he had against Williams, he got found out. So what do you think about Porky's comment, Andy? You there, Andy? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I mean, I was standing there talking away to myself. What the hell? I was on mute, sorry. Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned last week, well, I think I mentioned last week that Heffron's career has flattered to deceive. You know, his record isn't fantastic, or the opponents he's faced. But I did think last night he kind of, it was a good performance. I had Bentley winning the fight by a couple. I can understand why people maybe got it closer, because he's backing up when he's done some decent work and stuff, kind of like backing off into a corner. Sometimes that can maybe insinuate to a judge that you might be struggling a wee bit with the pace, and you're just trying to kind of like, you know, so much old man yourself through the fight a wee bit, you know. He was certainly kind of putting the pressure. I did like Bentley's kind of like punch selection stuff, but it was scrappy from time to time. You know, I've got to say, Bentley he looked very good when he was slipping inside Heffron's lead hands and that, and he was countering pretty well. But as I say, I think he was backing off, maybe switching off as well. And maybe that's allowed Heffron to get into the fight and maybe make it closer on the cards and stuff. But as I say, I thought Bentley was a worthy winner. He was certainly finished stronger anyway. So if you hear any arguments in the background, it's my wife and my daughter having a bit of Barney. So two cats fighting there. So maybe go and get a 10.
Get a WBA title on the line here, Andy.
Aye, mate. Aye, you know, WBA Barbie weight title. You know, I didn't see Esserman against Penu. I've seen a few rounds of it. Sorry, Ali against Harris. That was a complete joke. Tribe I've never liked him. And I don't know why the likes of Kevin McCauley, who's got 207 defeats, is getting TV time. It's just absolutely deplorable. And with that, mate, I'll just bid you farewell just for 2 minutes.
Oh, Andy's getting stuck in here like a prime Marcus McDonald trying to pull these girls apart. Maybe it's 10-2 minutes, 10-3s, who knows. Yeah, Aussie lead off with Heffron there. I thought he was coming forward and forcing the fight, but was he really landing that much? I liked Bentley's upper body movement. I am a Bentley fan, so maybe that was swaying me. I thought he was landing the cleaner, crisper, harder shots. He's a strange fighter because he looks so classy and content and so languid at times and like in control. And other times he'll just throw a mad swinging right hand that almost sends him out of the ring. He's a strange fighter, Bentley, but I thought he won by a couple of rounds personally.
I agree. I had it the same. I was surprised by the comments after it by Mark Heffron saying he thought he won every round bar the second, which was the one he was knocked down in, and he thought he walked it. Completely disagree with that. Thought Heffron looked really, like quite relaxed, and he looked really good all fight week, and then basically got hit and thought, right, it's like the confidence just zapped from him a little bit. Didn't see he didn't see the shot that knocked him down coming. Got caught square on, both on his arse. Don't think it hurts him that much, but it's little things like that, which a classy operator like Denzel Bentley will take advantage of. But what I will say is that Heffron against Williams, I think he kind of bottled it in a way, and just he just didn't know what to do. But he did dig down against Bentley, and he fought his way back into the fight. And there were some close rounds, and you can argue, it can, depending on what you like, it can go one way or the other. But for me, I thought Bentley. He certainly, if I was the promoter, he'd be the one that I want to win the fight because I think he's got the potential to go deeper in the sport. He's got an excellent style, can clearly punch. Not that. I don't think he's got that one punch, power. But he beat the shit out of Mick Hall, and that Hall is a tough, a genuine tough bloke. Can just take a shot. He beat up Mick Hall, and he landed some great shots on Heffron last night as well. I believe the rematch has been signed already. Both fighters clearly think they'll win. Heffron, I think, at times did. He tested the chin of Bentley as well, and Heffron can punch. But I think he's a fighter that's very good when he's on top. We talk about his record. His record's poor, really. It's not much of a record, but he's also... he's been all over the place. I think he started off... I'm sure he made his pro debut in Holland or Poland or something like that.
It's because he was with Gary Hyde, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah,
And he takes his fighters all over the shop, yeah.
It was, yeah. He did a lot of stuff with what's his name? Like a Jack in the Box, always knocked down. Hassan and Dam. Because I think and Dam was with Hyde as well.
He was, yeah, that's right.
At one point, yeah. So he's done a lot there. And I think then he's done a lot on the small old scene. So naturally, if the money's not there, you're going to pad your record with these poor fighters. I'd say his first real step up was against Lewis Taylor, then Andrew Robinson, who he knocked out, and then it was Williams. So he's certainly not got the depth, but he's also showed he can operate. So yeah, the rematch is going to happen. Both fighters will think they can win. Both will learn a lot from it. But for me, I think Bentley will win the rematch. I don't think it'll be a stoppage. I just think it'll be a wider points decision. Andy said it right. Bentley allowed Heffron to come on and be backed up, which I think gave Heffron some rounds. I don't think Bentley will make that mistake again. And look, for a guy in his 14th fight, done the rounds comfortably. Very impressive. I like him. Speaks well, comes across well. And yeah, I'll look forward to the rematch. Touching on the rest of the card, Sadiq, Echo Esserman. Solid win. Solid win. I get why they brought Payno over. Bit of, reputation. He's known by the British fans because he arguably beat Conor Benn in the 6th rounder and then certainly caused some problems in the rematch in the 10 rounder before I think he was knocked down quite a few times. But a good win. Certainly think Esserman's got a lot to offer domestically. Age isn't on his side, but he's not got the miles on the clock and he looks in great nick. And I think he can certainly operate at British level without a doubt. He's got the beatings of Ben, Jenkins, so certainly he can operate at British level. The rest of the card I didn't really enjoy, to be honest. That Mohammed Bilal Ali shite. Fair play to Ed Harrison. You've just exposed another one of these, cowboys who get in the ring type of thing. I was talking to John Evans, and he said I bet you Frank Warren had never even heard of Mohammed Bilal Ali, and it's just because he's managed by Tunde Ajayi. How he's appeared on got TV time.
Lions in the camp.
Yeah, he probably won't be on there again. So one of the young lions was struck down by Ed Harrison, and then as you say, yeah. And sorry, Andy.
It's just a 9 failure.
Exactly. And then the rest of them, Frankerman, that Janzeb, Macaulay. Well, he is what he is, and he tucks up, takes his shots, picks his paycheck up, and goes on to the next fight. And same with Jamie Quinn as well. So enjoyed the Yard and Heffron fights overall. Esserman wasn't a bad one either, but the other 3 weren't the best. And fingers crossed we do get to see the Heffron Bentley rematch, because I certainly think it is one that it was an excellent fight first time round, and I think it can only get better.
Final thoughts though for me is, the fact is half 7 start, you've got a guy with a 200 losing record on TV, and then you've got the main event not starting until well after 11 o'clock. What is the point of that? You've got an empty stadium, empty arena and stuff. Yeah. You don't have any major issues. What is the hold up between these fights?
I think it's silly the way they I mean, we were talking about this last week about Channel
Danny
5.
Young, Danny Young said it
Danny
right,
Young
aye.
said, Channel 5, come on, you have the main event at like 10 past 10 and then you show everything afterwards. There's different ways they can do this. I don't know why it's on so late. I know Sky was showing football and that, but was it 10 to 10 or 10 past 10? And you had Macaulay on at that time. Right when you think sort of, that's sort of your peak time, isn't it? Then 9:30 to 10 o'clock, something like that. That's not when you have a journeyman on. It's like taking the air out the balloon for me. You're thinking to yourself, oh, yeah, you've got Heffron against Bentley or whatever it is, waiting for that to come on. It's nearly 10 o'clock. We'll maybe get this in, go to bed. And then all of a sudden he brings out a 6th round and I'm like, oh, my God. It's really weird. I mean, Ozzy, I'm sure you agree with the timing. Is it Frank's decision?
Yeah,
Is it BT?
Well, you're not telling me it's BT. It's BT saying, "Oh yeah, we'll we want to see like Kevin McCauley on our channel at like a prime time." I get, look, like someone like Joshua Frankham, you want to give him the exposure. I understand that as a debutant, but find him a better opponent at least. I'm not saying like chuck him in with somebody an unreal, like who's going to be a huge test. But yeah, we don't want to be seeing stuff like that, particularly when you had Heffron and Bentley waiting. That's the one that, if you're flicking through and you see, like you might catch like a round or so and it's very good, I'll stay and watch that. But when you're seeing, like you see it, 15 wins, 207 losses, you just think, no, I'm not interested at all. And that's one thing I would say about them. They've got to get the scheduling right. It's not difficult. It's common sense. It's common sense. It's really not difficult. I get, like say if 2 of your 10 or 12 rounders finish early, like inside 2 or 3 rounds, because one of them gets banged out. Fine, because you need something to kill time. Otherwise, your show will be done too quick. I get that, but we didn't need to be seeing Kevin McCauley on at 8:30, 9 o'clock yesterday. Absolutely no chance. Fingers crossed they learn from it and don't do it again, because it does suck the life out of it when you're watching it. And there's no atmosphere as well because there's nobody there.
Yeah, it's got to be Frank because he's always done it, even back on Box Nation and that. But I just wonder whether BT, well, they haven't said something or, I don't know, at least tried to sort it out or something. Anyway, joining us again, it wasn't last week, it was the week before. We first heard from Stephen Lynch. He's back again for more in the Nuthouse. How are you, Stephen? Keeping well?
How you doing, guys? Good to join you.
Yes, absolutely. Good to have you here. A couple of things on your agenda. First of all, just before, did you watch anything on the weekend? Anything that took your interest before we get stuck into the meat?
No, I'm afraid not, Steve. I did have a look at the old schedule there, but no, I didn't actually catch any of it. I feel like it's been a bit of a lull period between White and Povetkin and some of the other fights. So no, it's just kind of ongoing things that I hope we can chat about while we're speaking.
Yeah, no problem. We'll go on to the heavyweight, shall we then? Wilder, Fury and Joshua. You said to me on the messaging, might as well get stuck into this first. I don't think Wilder versus Fury 3 actually ends up happening. Joshua is in a very tough fight with Pulev. We're risking not seeing the unification and may well be eventually be without one of the belts. You think the heavyweight division is up in the air at the moment?
Yeah, I do. I think it's in a really kind of precarious position, Steve. I think one of the things that I think people forget is that Wilder Fury 2, the rematch, I think that didn't actually break even in terms of turning a profit financially. I was looking at this last week, looking up the pay-per-view numbers and things, because it really surprised me when I first seen it, because I heard Eddie Hearn talking about it, and of course you've got to always take what you hear from anybody who's a promoter with a pinch of salt about a rival event. But that was a great fight. That rematch, and it was heavily promoted here and in the US, and it was a great spectacle. But based on the information I found online, that seems to be quite a legit statistic that it didn't actually make a profit. So the question then becomes is basically who wants to see a third fight? If you're like me and you think Fury won the first fight, even with the 2 knockdowns, and he conclusively won the second fight. That was about as one-sided a dominant performance as you can possibly get. Then, if you're a promoter trying to promote this, whether it's in Australia or any of these other places, I just don't think the financials are there to make the third fight. Not that I'm involved in financials and making fights, and I just don't think there's a demand among what you'd call a casual fan to watch this again, given what Fury did to Wilder in the second fight. So just basically, I think what will end up happening is Wilder will probably pull out with some kind of injury. He'll come out with some legit sounding excuse about how he's unable to defend this title or whatnot. And I think lots of people were saying this right at the time, but I think that's the smart thing to do from Wilder's point of view. And I don't want to have a cheap dig at him, but it's been said often that he, his intelligence is not something that people, kind of praise him for. So, yeah, it's the smart thing to do. It'd be interesting to hear what you guys think. I think it's the smart thing for him to have just immediately just to sit this out and let Fury and AJ, tear strips out of each other. And then he might be able to just have one fight with the winner and then just to win all the marbles and the belts. Then that's probably the better thing to do.
Yeah, I'd be delighted if someone did step aside and let Fury and AJ tear strips off each other, but I'm not convinced that that fight's even going to happen. Boxing First there put an interesting comment for you, Stephen. Let me just read it out to you. Regarding the financials, he said, so many people have easy access to dodgy streams. Back in the day when you couldn't find the fights online for love and the money, you had no choice but to buy it. Now, however, it is too easy and free. So especially with no fans in the arenas and that, they're looking to make money. Pay-per-views is the main, pretty much only avenue at the moment. How they're going to make money if people are doing these illegal streams? Do you think it is affecting the financials as much as Boxing First suggests?
Make it worth their money to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to incentivize people to put their hand in their pocket nowadays, don't you? You have to really put on a show, and you have to make these really 50-50 type fights because people are just too savvy to go with Team Stream, aren't they? The other just couple of things on this, I think Wilder, whatever his limitations are, and his style, definitely Fury did expose a lot of his limitations, but that right hand of Wilder has served him so well against pretty much everybody else that if he looks back to when him and AJ were first trying to negotiate that fight before AJ was blown out by Ruiz, Wilder would have had a very good chance actually of beating an undefeated AJ in America or wherever had they fought just with that right hand. So I think he may look back or certainly his fans will look back and regret that fight didn't happen when it was on the table, and I've no idea who's really to blame for it. Both camps make equally kind of ludicrous or convincing claims depending on where you sit in the debate. But I think I lean towards the side that Wilder was probably being protected, and then I think he probably his team tried to cherry pick Fury when he was coming back, being overweight and stuff. But actually, I think Team Fury actually cherry picked him. I think was actually the way it worked out in the end. And yeah, I think I've heard people say this before. If we actually get to a stage, let's say if AJ gets past Pulev, which is no guarantee, and Fury can get out of this Wilder situation, AJ or Fury might have to drop a belt. That might be what has to happen. So we might actually have to have the unification without, say, the WBA or WBC or whatever it is. And I think we might just have to accept that and just, it's not a perfect world. It's the fighters that make the belts at the end of the day, not the other way around. And so the winner of AJ and Fury will be, for all intents and purposes, be the undisputed. It doesn't really matter if one of the organizations doesn't recognize them. It's just something to bear in mind, I think.
No, it's a fair point, actually. I mean, just something that came to me there before we go on to the Crawford talk, which we're going to get stuck into Crawford Brook as well with you. You mentioned about Joshua against Pulev being no foregone conclusion. I think Pulev's he's awkward to fight. He has a strange style. He's very experienced, but knocking on 40 if he's not 40 already. I mean, Eddie's trying to get him out the way. Do you foresee him still causing problems? Maybe if he goes for Joshua the way he went for Vlad, we could have an exciting fight. We might have an exciting ending the way Vlad eventually finished him off. Do you think Pulev is genuinely going to cause Joshua problems if and when they fight?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think based on the first Ruiz fight, I do think, and definitely with what Povetkin did to White there this summer, I think Pulev is gonna go for it. He's gonna, as you say, put his foot on the gas. Because I remember watching that Klitschko fight, and some of the highlights don't look good. So he did get dropped a few times, and in the end, Vlad took him out quite conclusively. But there was a lot of good stuff that Pulev was doing early on in that fight. If I'm not mistaken, I remember he was starting to take away Klitschko's jab, which is something that 99% of his opponents never managed to do. And they always said that the fight doesn't start against Klitschko unless you figure out a way to deal with that. And yeah, in the early rounds of that fight, I think Pulev was doing some good stuff, but I think he just I think he got his spacing wrong, or Klitschko, uncharacteristically took a few risks to land big shots on him. So it was quite an interesting fight to watch. Yeah, with Joshua, I think it'd be interesting to see how he deals with that jab of Pulev's, and I think it will definitely give him a good fight. Probably AJ might eke it out like the way he did against Povetkin, come up with the goods later down the stretch. But it'll be very interesting and it'll be very competitive, I think, in the early rounds.
Yeah, boys in the chat, not so sure here, Stephen. Pulev looked decent against Huey Fury, but how long ago was that? Has he even fought since, says Lee the Alcoholic Frosh? I don't think he has, actually. Tosh Bear says AJ ran through no one to suggest he smashes. Oh, we've disappeared. Up and experienced Pulev. Yeah, I think Pulev's going to make it awkward if AJ doesn't get rid of him within the first 6 or 7 rounds. I think he's going to become a bit of a grind. Eggy Phil says, as he watched Pulev's last 2 fights, go on YouTube and watch the fight versus Bogdan Dino. Well, especially what he was up to after that. Anyway, let's move on then, shall we? Crawford, Brook, Khan situation. Crawford's already fought Khan. They're talking about him fighting Kell Brook now. Would you be averse to this fight, Stephen, given some of the fighters Crawford's been in with? No world beaters, but not a shit opposition by all accounts. We want to see Crawford in with the big ones. Will you be happy? Will you be satisfied if Kell Brook accepts the $1.5 million and fights Terence Crawford next?
I think I'm going to be a bit biased here because I am a big fan of Kell Brooks from back in the day. I can't begrudge him the payday he's getting. I think he's getting $2 million. Not that I'm seeing any of that. It's not really my business, but I can't begrudge him that. But I think if you're talking about Crawford being like a pound for pound champion, being thought of as that, this is, from his point of view, this isn't it's not the greatest opposition that he could have fought that's out there. I'm not saying it's a mismatch, but you would expect Crawford to deal with Brook potentially within 12, maybe a late stoppage, and yeah, it's quite interesting with Brook and Khan the way both of their careers went. I just think, I don't want to be, like a hindsight merchant, but I think with Brook, it was really, he was never the same after he fought Golovkin. I don't think he really had to really take that risk. I think he had Errol Spence as a mandatory, if I'm not mistaken, for the IBF title he had, and Spence went on to beat him anyway after he'd gone through Golovkin. But you never know. That could have been a much closer fight if Brook had just tried to defend against Spence. You never know. He might have even shocked the world and beaten him. I don't know if you guys remember that Golovkin fight on the night. Sky Sports were trying to spin it how competitive it was. And it was a fight where Brook's corner threw the towel in what was it, 6 rounds, and it's hardly a competitive fight. He took a lot of damage, didn't he?
He did. I mean, I've met. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go on. No, I was just going to say something about Khan, but maybe we'll come on to that.
Yeah, just before we go on to Khan, I was going to say to you, I've made this point before on the pod, and I'll make it again. I think that Kell Brook, possibly the Golovkin and Errol Spence fights have speeded this up a bit. I think Brook's done with boxing. I don't think, given his last 3 opponents as well, he wants to box on anymore. Eddie's dangling the carrot of the Khan fight over him at the moment and trying to keep him going, trying to get him Crawford fights and stuff, saying there's still money to be made. You can still headline pay-per-view fights. He's so desperate for these headliners at the moment. But if it's down to Brook, he'd probably sort of just get fat and jog on somewhere, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think both Brook and Khan have been in this period of their careers for like the last maybe 2 years or something. Khan especially, it seems like Khan, he's just sort of selling his records, so he's just like taking big paydays to get knocked out by some of the bigger guys, so Crawford and Canelo, and his early on, his like the middle of his career, he had some really impressive names on there, Maidana, Malignaggi and Judah and some of these guys. I think him and his team just picked really strange fights. Like the Chris Algieri fight, that was a really strange fight. I don't know what the upside, the reward was there and the risk reward calculus, and I think in the end it was a much closer fight than it should have been in the end. And he should never have lost the Peterson fight. He was winning that quite comfortably, and that. I remember this at the time. That was a voluntary defense at the time. Khan had some belts. It was at light welterweight, and he fought Peterson in his backyard was it in Washington, DC?
Washington,
maybe?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, it was there, wasn't it? And that it was a voluntary defense, and there was no rematch clause as well. So you could argue his team were being kind of complacent and arrogant. They thought they were just going to go down there and just turn over Peterson. I mean, he was winning the fight quite handily early on, and then he just started having to tear up to fight Peterson's fight. And then the Garcia fight, I think he got suckered into trading, if you like, with Danny Garcia, which is exactly what he wants everybody to do. He wants the opponent to stand and throw hooks there with him, because that's when they're in range. So those were 2 fights he shouldn't really have lost. He should have had enough boxing skill to keep both of them at bay. So that was a shame, really. If you want to see the British fighters, do the business overseas. And just the other thing, Steve, it would be interesting to hear what you guys think. This is going back a while, but if you remember this business when he was trying to get the Mayweather fight, that this seemed to go on for like months and years, where Khan was like campaigning for this. And then in the end, Mayweather decided to fight Maidana. I genuinely think that Khan, he actually talked his way out of that fight. So in other words, he would have gotten the fight if he'd have just not, kept talking nonsense on social media. He was bringing the British pay-per-view market with him. Mayweather had fought Hatton before, and they'd seen all the fans and stuff that he brings to Vegas. And I think it would have been a similar style event if Khan had got that sort of opportunity. But I think that was the reason. It just seemed like Khan was the favourite for months and months, and then at the last minute, Maidana, after he knocked out Broner, he sort of unexpectedly, was the person they chose, and then they ended up having 2 fights then.
Yeah, I think there was an air of desperation about Khan, and didn't Mayweather even start almost trolling him at one point? Did the whole poll, didn't he, on Twitter? Who do you want me to fight? I think Khan might have won it, and he still picked Maidana. In the end, he was really leading Khan, stringing him along.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's he was big on that control element, wasn't he? Towards the end of his career, particularly Floyd. I think he maybe I think he knew what it was like to be on the other side of that. I think when he fought Oscar De La Hoya, and he talked about when De La Hoya, he picked how big the ring was. He decided how big your gloves were. What specific gloves you wore, and all this kind of stuff. It's the Klitschko's were supposed to be bad for this as well. Just using every possible advantage to get a mental edge ahead of fight night. I think Floyd, he was supposed to be bad for that as well. Just taking a long time to negotiate and actually announce fights as well, just to keep his opponents on edge. And I think that's quite plausible with what happened to Khan. I think he just got desperate, and he just didn't know how to be patient and just get on with things. So that was a missed opportunity.
Certainly was. Phil's jumped on the call, so I'm going to bring him in shortly. Before we do so, Stephen, anything you want to add in there just before we let you go?
Yeah, just going back to the old Con Brook thing. I don't want to make too many predictions here, but I thought for a long time that this is just going to be one of those fights that doesn't happen, sadly. And I think this just simply comes down to Khan having an issue with Brook. I think he just doesn't want to. Khan doesn't want to put himself in a position where Brook can beat him in a boxing ring, and have that over him for the rest of their lives after they retire. And it's quite strange because Khan has showed. I'm not questioning Khan's courage. He's shown he's willing to get in there with anybody, but he's willing to get in there and get knocked out, for money basically. But not for Brook. It seems. It just, I don't know. Maybe you guys speculate why that is. Why with Brook in particular? But I've just always got that impression from Khan. He just, I don't know. He seems Brook as beneath him in terms of giving him a fight.
Yeah, it's a strange one. He doesn't want to give him the payday, as Joel says there. It does happen, I suppose. I mean, Canelo seems to have this intense hatred for Golovkin now, which I think is maybe tainted. We're going to talk Canelo later, but that's tainting his opinion. He really can't stand Golovkin, doesn't want to give him the payday, supposedly, to such extent that he's like holding his own to ransom, saying, I don't have to fight him. It's not in the contract. That's a different discussion for a different day anyway. Thanks for joining us, Stephen. Pleasure as always. The chat seemed to be enjoying you anyway, so thanks for coming on.
Cheers, guys.
All the best now. Cheerio.
Cheers.
Okay, Stephen Lynch there. Eggy Phil has joined us on the call. Just before we unmute you, unleash you upon the world, Phil, I just want to go to Andy very quickly on something. Last Sunday evening, your Dennis Ugas, we made our predictions just before the pod closed as to how we thought it would go. Bit of a strange one, this, Andy. I thought Ugas was a worthy winner. Abel Ramos, as he tends to do, came forward, left nothing in the tank. But those scores, they've just flicked up on me on BoxRec here. One of the judges had it like to Ramos by... Yeah, 9 rounds to 3. I mean, what the hell was going on there?
117, 111. But is my right? Like 75, 80-year-old. I mean, he must have fell asleep or he took his pills a bit too early. I don't know.
He's like, Andy, do you remember that your man Clark? I was at the fight. Lee Haskins fought Ryan Burnett and Clark San Martino put in a score of 118, 110 to Haskins, and everyone was confused. And it turns out he thought one fighter was the other.
Aye, and then there was no way you could fuck it up there because like Haskins was emblazoned across like the waistband. So was the other fighter's name as well, incidentally. But yeah, I mean, and you had the Triber there last night. Yeah, you guys try to remember what happened. I think it was pretty much uneventful, wasn't it? But
yeah,
I thought he won it by a couple. Moret, just deplorable card. Really needs to be asked questions. That's maybe a question for later on and stuff like that. Like say. Like to see judges and referees get called to account for performances or shitty scorecards and stuff. So I want to give a shout out to Richard Steele. Remember after the Chavez Taylor stoppage, 12th round, a lot of people actually forget that Steele actually got interviewed after that fight, directly after that fight, and gave his opinion. So that showed some balls by the way, considering the magnitude of that stoppage and how big a fight that was and stuff. So wee bit of clarity. Feel like people like that, or exactly in the day, the commission should be kind of calling them to account anyway. But they should be getting dragged in front of a camera, asking them, how the hell can you see that 170, 111, but the other two are seeing it like 2 points the other way? It's just disgraceful, man. And I'm sure he's a wee old white guy, with white hair and stuff.
That's
so
right. Yeah, Dr. Lee right. Yeah.
Aye. So even as an official at this point, stuff like it should be washed up.
I know it was a long time ago, Andy, but from the undercard, I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head here. Cody Crowley, I mentioned him to you. A decent Canadian. He was absolutely putting the beating on Josh Torres. And Torres looked like his dad was going to pull him out the corner. It was getting uncomfortable. And then for some reason, Crowley completely took his foot off the gas. Now, this Crowley fella apparently had sparred about 100 rounds with Floyd before Floyd retired. So that says to me that if Floyd values you enough to bring you back for a total of 100 rounds over various camps, you must have something about you. So for that reason alone, and the fact that he looked pretty decent, this Canadian kid, Southpaw, Cody Crowley at welterweight, totally dominating Josh Torres, he might be one to watch for the future. Also, Bata Akhmedov, can't really take too much out of that first round knockout over Ray Perez. A bit of a strange one. He punched Perez's elbow into his stomach and sort of effectively stopped him with a body shot. And if you remember anything of it, particularly Crowley, Andy, don't worry if you don't.
No, but maybe worth keeping a wee eye on. I had a look at his record late last week and stuff. But is it mid-20s or whatever? So he might get to a certain point and stuff. But we'll wait and see how it goes.
Yeah, 27-year-old Southpaw, based in Las Vegas now, 19-0 with 9 knockouts, originally from Canada. Phil is on the call with us. I'm not sure what it is you wanted to talk about, Phil, but I omitted one of your questions last week about the Golden Contract light heavyweights in the light of Anthony Yard's fight with Dex Spelman. Did you catch anything over the weekend, Phil, before we get stuck into the light heavyweights? Any BT Sport action with Frank?
100 quid on the draw between Bentley and Denzel, so I was quite happy about that. I didn't think it was a draw. I thought Denzel won as well. Sorry, Heffron and Denzel. Sorry, I apologise about that. Yeah, I didn't think it was a draw myself. I thought Denzel won by a couple of rounds with the knockdown. Looking forward to the rematch. I didn't score it properly myself. I just thought he won by a couple of rounds. Wouldn't like to score those fights, to be honest with you. They're quite a nightmare to do. Anthony Yard. I keep seeing that people keep saying Anthony Yard's world level, but to me, he hasn't proven anything to be world level. Now, to me, when he fought Kavelowski, he had that one good round, but for the rest of the fight, he was just getting schooled. And people keep saying to me, well, that was a world-class performance, and I'm struggling to see it, to be honest with you. He's doing now what he should have been doing before he fought Kovalev. I don't begrudge him for taking the Kovalev fight because it's what Frank Warren does for him. But I just don't know how you can work out his world-class, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Yard got the job done. What about the shoulder roll? You a fan of the shoulder roll, Phil?
Nope, not a chance. He bangs his chest about 20, 30 times a fight. Do you know what I mean? Rolls his shoulder, throws a few punches, and does it again. But I just don't see the point in it. He did it in the Kovalev fight. That is the one thing I remember so much about the Kovalev fight. He's in a world title fight, fighting an elite opponent, and the thing he's doing every round, he's banging his chest 4, 5, 6, 7 times around. What's that supposed to do? Pump you up? Do you know what I mean? To try and win? Fucking throw a punch. You know what I mean? It's just quite annoying, to be honest, if you're watching it. It just frustrates me.
Let's talk about the Golden Contract then, Phil. Obviously, you threw this in last week. Hosea Burton is going against your guy Bolotniks, who knocked out Stephen Ward. He said he'll get rid of Bolotniks in a round. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Hosea Burton did knock out Bolotniks earlier, because I like big Stevie Ward. He shouldn't have been down at light heavyweight. I don't think he's that brilliant either. We'll see how he gets on at cruiserweight. But Hosea Burton is ready to put in a good shift. What do you think about the draw itself and the Golden Contract tournament as a whole across the weights?
As a Golden Contract, it's really good. Really enjoy it. You know what I mean? It gets fighters out there who wouldn't usually get a place on TV as well, or fighters that people may have not heard of, and they can see. You know what I mean? It's something to be interested in. You know what I mean? Oh, what's the Golden Contract? You know what I mean? It's the way it says it as well. The Golden Contract, it makes you interested. Like it 100% does to me as well. And I'm fancy. It's like looking at the light heavyweight as well. I'm really fancying Liam Conroy to come in and beat Michelle in the semi-final and get yourself in the final. And I can see it being a British final, you know, Liam Conroy v Burton. But then Burton's got to go to Bolotnik's backyard, hasn't he? So that's the problem. So if he ends up a UD, then you never know, it could be a dodgy scorecard over there.
You've just gone a bit muffled there, Phil. Do you want to get a bit closer to the mic? Maybe give yourself a shake?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
I can hear you absolutely perfect there. I think you were picking Liam Conroy to win the whole thing. Is that correct?
I fancy Conroy, you know. I fancy Conroy to get to the final. I do, and beat Michelle. And obviously, I fancy Burton to beat Bolotnik's, but he's going in his own back. But he's going to Bolotnik's backyard, isn't he, to fight him? So you just don't know there, do we? I think the KO's got to be a sure thing for Burton. But what was it? I wanted to jump on about Danny Williams just while I'm here as well, because it's frustrating me, if you don't mind me. It's pissed me off, to be honest with you. It's took Danny Williams to be on the Box Nation show for people to finally take notice that he should not be in the ring. He's been doing it for the last 10 years. And I feel like boxing owes him something. And get him out of the sport. Get him a job, doing anything, commentating. He doesn't matter what he is, but he needs to stop.
He's not going to be able to string a sentence together now, surely, is he?
No, well, you know what? I went on YouTube last night and I just typed in Danny Williams boxer, and you watch he fight 3 times from like last year.
Phil, I've completely lost you now, dude.
Sorry, I'm there.
You're getting stronger.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. He's on the full PEDs now. Carry on.
Yeah, sorry, I apologise about that. So yeah, basically, I went on YouTube last night and I just had a look.
We
can hear your apology, but nothing else.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, yeah.
I don't know what's going on here, type. Yeah, so I looked at like 3 fights from the last 2 years, and he just speaks his whole career in those like last 3 fights. It's actually disgusting. I just feel like boxing owes him something. Surely there's someone out there that can do something for him, and I can't believe it's taken till 2020 to go on Box Nation for people to try finally speak out about it. It just pissed me off, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe Danny should. But the thing is, as long as these guys in Russia and that Germany are going to keep paying him, he's going to keep. I mean, how can you stop it? That's the problem. You can't withdraw his license because he's on a Latvian license, and we've seen the guys Prince Patel's been put in. They'll just, sanction anybody. So until he gets some kind of injury, God forbid, he's not going to be able to stop, is he?
Surely, though, people are going to see that from Friday night and say, right, enough is enough. You would think so. Anyway, but surely someone's going to have to offer him an opportunity for a way out. There's got to be someone in British boxing surely can, do you know what I mean, offer him something just to get out of that sport. And I know why he does it. He does it for his little girl. He does it for his kids, doesn't he? And you know what? Fair play to him. He does it so they get a great education. But at the same time, he needs to think it's time to stop because he's gonna end up with no brain cells. He really is. I don't even think he's got any, to be honest with you. You saw from Friday. That boxer I don't even know what the boxer's name was, to be honest with you, but he could have really hurt him.
He's an old kickboxing champion. But I was just going to say, I mean, it's up to Danny where he wants to educate his kids and stuff, but how much is he possibly earning for these fights, fighting in Latvia, Czech Republic and stuff like that, to last 2 rounds or go up against a guy who's 0-8? I mean, Jesus, what is it, like $2,000 a fight? I mean, he's not earning big money.
That's what I was going to say, $2,000 a fight to go to all these random countries and get knocked out. That I posted up a video today, and he was fighting some Russian fella or something, and the Russian fella knocked him out in 10 seconds. And he ran to the ring, jumped up on the top of the ring, celebrating up and down like he's just won a world championship. It was bizarre, and it's sad just watching it.
Yeah.
It is sad. Did you see the main event, Phil? We haven't got onto it yet, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Sadiq did really well, didn't he? But Chudinov, I think he's so experienced. He's been there and done it. He cranked it up steadily round after round. Such a good chin, and he put the pressure on at exactly the right time. I thought Chudinov was actually really good too.
Yeah, I enjoyed that fight. I thought Umar really really should be proud of yourself, to be honest with you. What did he have? 3-4 weeks notice to go to Russia and fight Chudinov?
2 apparently.
2. Well, it's a shame that he didn't finish the fight, to be honest with you. And he just what did that come down to? Just being too tired. Thought Chudinov was up by a couple of rounds in the 12th. It's like I say, it's sad that he didn't finish the fight out, to be honest with you. He worked behind the jab quite well. Just Chudinov was too much for him in the end. And he's just one of those come forward fighters. You can get in your face. And once he gets to you, he'll hurt you. And he just proved.
Yeah, fair play to him. We can hear you loud and clear now, Phil. I'm going to bring in Rapping Rob Kelly. Feel free to stay on the line if you wish. It's entirely up to you, or you can hook it if you want to, okay? The option's yours.
Not to worry. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rapping Rob Kelly, how are you, sir? Keeping well on this Sunday evening?
Yeah, doing well. Can you hear me, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Doing well sexually, most of all, Rob?
Always, baby. What was I going to say to you? I hope this is not listening.
Have you spotted that 3.6 litre engine yet, by the way?
No, not yet. Tell you if I ever do.
Hey, Rob, you like dags?
I tell you, that's a Patreon up, that one. That's not a free to air episode, that one. What was I going to say to you? Yeah, as usual, I've seen everything for the weekend. Whatever you name it, I've seen it. Not really. I saw Yard and Spelman, and that's about it. I'm sorry to the listeners, by the way. I know some of them have been complaining in the chat and all, like, oh, Rob Kelly hasn't seen anything again. Just I was kind of too long in the tooth and too long at this watching fight lags to be just watching shit that doesn't excite me. So, passing interest.
Fuck the listeners, Rob. Fuck the listeners. We don't do this for them. Who cares what they think?
Fuck them. Fuck them ones. Hey, actually, anyone in Craggy Island tonight, by the way, leave your super chats in it. Leave a few quid in it before you withdraw it. So, as you've seen, as an avid listener of the pod over the last few weeks, we have super chat now, so you can donate. It's the price of a pint if you want to, for all the tireless work that we put in, week out. And we thought we had a big fan base in the Father Ted community, because we had Father Jack Hackett, we'd Father Ted, we'd Father Dougal Maguire, Mrs. Doyle, all the boys in donating a fiver. I feel like it's time to collect the fucking thing and it's all withdrawn.
Fire before you offend anybody. We're not sure. We're still not sure.
Hey, we're fucking sure. Just, if you're in Craggy Island, leave the donation in there, you mean get you. Don't be fucking toying with our emotions like that.
Quick, Fedor Chudinov, Rob Mayday, Fedor Chudinov, quick.
All donations welcome, all jokes aside. No, I saw Yard Spellman. Fucking hell, I don't want to go on. I don't want to go on a too negative thing about Anthony Yard, because I think Anthony Yard has the potential to be a force and a bit of a name and make some money for himself. But I do think this Tunde thing is a load of bullshit, and I said that before. And all this visuals, like this shoulder, where's he going with the shoulder roll? Like the Wish version of the shoulder roll, as I said in the chat, like absolute fucking, you could learn that on YouTube. And I'm not being disrespectful. I'm really not trying to be disparaging about the kick, because I do like Yard, like, but that is absolutely serving him no purpose whatsoever in a fight situation. I mean, Spellman can't crack, but still caught him over the top a few times, and that is the key to beating that weak shoulder roll defense. If you're going to do it, you have to learn that from an expert. You can't learn it from a fella who learned it watching it on YouTube. And it's just, I don't know, man. I could be too critical of him. I mean, he did the job. Spellman looked like a punch bag by the 5th round, 6th round. He hung in there for the first few rounds. He can obviously crack very hard. He definitely hits hard, Anthony Yard. To me, he looks a bit top heavy. He looks like he's a bit made wrong for a fighter. He's very kind of thin in the waist, wide up top. I think the gas tank is going to be an issue. He spat the mouthpiece out last night in the 5th. And I thought he was just buying himself a few seconds, because after he had the little rest, he had a kind of a spurt, burst of energy, and put it on Spellman. And then in the next round, I thought the referee could have pulled Spellman out of there a couple of seconds earlier, to be honest with you, and spared him. He ended up taking the knee and then was looking to continue. Was a bit perturbed when the fight was stopped, but it was the correct call for me. Then afterwards, you got this Tunde goes in the ring, and they have a little signature handshake that they're doing for the cameras and all. It's just reminded me today. I was at a fucking football match today, old fellas versus young fellas, and the young fellas had a new coach, and the coach was outside giving them the team talk outside the fucking dressing room, like for everyone to hear. It's just all this shit for the cameras. I can't stand it now. Maybe I'm just too old and too old school, but it should be about Anthony Yarde anyway. So in terms of him, I think he's like I said, I think he has the potential to be a bit of a name, make a bit of money for himself. But in my opinion, he needs a better coach. If he's going to do anything, he needs a better coach. And Buatsi is the only fight out there to make for him. I don't want to see him I really don't want to see him in any other fight or these type of fights. You give him one, you give him a gimme coming off lockdown, as we say. All the fighters are due one, so they want to be active and make money and take the fights that are available. But you got to make that Buatsi fight. Have to.
Absolutely, mate, the Buatsi fight. Andy, we've already spoken about Yarde, so let's get over to Russia then. I think we're all in agreement, aren't we? Umar Sadiq did himself proud, former guest on the pod. He boxed really well, used his advantages, just didn't quite have that pop, that punch power to keep Chudinov honest and to go up and fight someone like Chudinov, who, as I'm reminded, is the better of the Chudinov brothers, and to put in that type of a performance, running it so close. I think he might have even been a few rounds up on one of the cards. He did really well. Chudinov showed his experience, Andy. He just cranked up the pressure at the exact right times down the championship rounds, just like a championship fighter does. So fair play to both of them. Come out with a great credit, especially Sadiq.
Yeah, I'm just trying to scroll through something here. I'm trying to find the scorecards. I think it was Bennett posted up the scorecards. And one of them had Umar. Was not quite white, a wee bit
5 rounds, possibly.
Yeah,
I think,
something like that. Aye, and he was losing the other 2. I think, is that right? Am I right in saying that?
I'm not sure. I only saw the 5 round one. I'm not sure about the other 2.
But he boxed really well. Just a shame he just not got that dig. If he had that dig, it could have been a different matter. But he was never stopping Chudinov, to be honest with you. Especially this Chudinov. You know, this guy. This was the one that I'm sure Groves beat the hell out of. Dimitri is the one that Eubank, I think, destroyed up and basically begged the referee to stop the fight. You just didn't stop that guy, and it would have been a tall ask. And it looks like the way it was going to go in the cards, and it looks like he was going to lose by possible split. But if he'd won, he'd have put himself right in the shop window. Just a wee bit inexperience at this age and that as well. As you just wonder, there's no disgrace in it, shall we say, but he's definitely got a run on him at definitely at domestic level. I think if he just gets the right fights, the right time and stuff. Buatsi is no fighting anybody and stuff. Who's the British champion again up there at light heavy? Is it Buatsi still?
Buatsi beat Conroy, didn't he? That was a while ago now. He went on to fight Ford after that, unless he's vacated it. Aussie, British champion at light heavyweight off the top of your head?
I thought it was Buatsi.
Yeah, must be still Buatsi.
Oh, Shakhan Pitters, yeah.
Shakhan Pitters, he fought Sugden, didn't he? That's right.
Yeah, sorry, it is Pitters, yeah.
Channel 5.
He's fighting Craig Richards as his mandatory in November on Channel 5.
Right. You say, obviously coming off a loss, it might not get a fight for the British, but if he's if it's still Pitters and that, Channel 5, it's a decent wee signature payday for him getting back on television. Definitely wasn't disgrace, I would say, stuff. So at least we know he can hold himself at a kind of certain.
What are you on about Sadiq though? Sadiq's a super middle. So Lerone Richards is the.
So that's like heavy. Who is super middleweight then? Is it still Lerone Richards?
Lerone Richards is the British champion, and he had a fight arranged with Richards. Not remember, Frank Warren announced it as one of the headline events, and then Richards had to pull out and couldn't fulfill the date because his partner was due to give birth to their child on the date of the fight, and then it was being mooted about being rearranged, and then it just couldn't get a date, and I don't know why. And then there was talk of this random opportunity with Chudinov appeared, and I'm guessing that basically, I don't know if there's things happening behind the scenes with Richards. Obviously, since Sam Jones got involved with him from a managerial perspective, he pulled him away from Al Smith as a trainer, sent him up to Caldwell. I wonder if he's going to end up making the jump to Matchroom, and that's why they've potentially not given Richards they've not given Richards this opportunity. Therefore, this chance has come up for Sadiq to go to Russia, and Sadiq basically says, "I'll fight anybody," and has taken that opportunity himself. But he certainly showed he can operate at domestic level at 168 without a doubt. For 2 weeks' notice, I mean, he's always in good shape, but naturally, when you're not training for that sort of, like A, opponent and B, fight, there's only so much you can have. I think he was up on one card by about 6 rounds, which I was shocked. And the other 2 were close as well. And look, people were saying that he needs to knock him out in Russia to get the win. Well, clearly not. Clearly, he doesn't need to do that because that I thought the card to him was quite wide. Actually, I thought it was close. It was closer. 2 or 3 rounds, 2 rounds either way type of thing. But just pulled up the rankings now. We can naturally forget about the likes of Smith, Saunders, Ryder. But I tell you what, I'd give Sadiq every chance of beating Rocky Fielding.
Yeah.
I don't know if Martin Murray's still boxing, but Martin Murray, great fight again. Richards, naturally, we'd want to see that. And I think Richards has been one that's flattered to deceive, really, at the moment. He talks the big game and stuff, but, when it's a close fight with the likes of Lennox Clark and you're on all about the skills, do they think he's better than he is? We're still waiting for that big breakout performance. Fight with Tommy Langford, ex-British champion. Again, you'd favour Sadiq in that. It's not massively deep, 168 domestically. You've got Willie Hutchinson coming through with Frank Warren as well.
Yeah.
I think Sadiq could probably have a bit too much for Hutchinson at the moment, just on calibre of fighters that he's boxed.
Yeah,
Hutchinson's in dire need of a step up. I've no doubt that maybe, in 18 months' time, and Hutchinson's boxed better opponents, he might then go...
What weight's that going to happen? Because Hutchinson's light heavy,
No, he's not. He's gone down to 168. He's going to stay in there for now. Yeah. He's already... Sadiq has beat Cody Davis already. You got Zach Chelly, who boxed on that Matchroom show.
Cullen, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jack Cullen. There's fights there to be made that actually, looking at it, it's not massively deep, in terms of you remove the big three, if you were to say, in Smith, Saunders and Ryder. And after that, you would probably fancy Sadiq against any of them, really. And look, I always say records are for DJs, and a loss can do more good at times than bad. And I certainly think this defeat, whilst he got beaten against Fedor Chudinov, his stock has certainly rose, and more people are talking about and are acknowledging now that he's better or he's above British level. Whereas, if you bang out, like a poor British opponent, we say to ourselves, what's the point in it? What's that really done for him? He's took a chance, has come short, but overall his stock's risen. We'll learn loads from it, absolutely loads. Because Chudinov's no mug. He's no mug. Don't get me, he's not an elite 168, but he's a solid, fringe world level opponent. And as we said, it's a more than commendable effort that on 2-3 weeks' notice, he's gone there, won rounds convincingly, and ultimately he was just shattered towards the end. Chudinov used his years of experience, which Sadiq hasn't got. But there's lots to like about him. And I've no doubt Frank Warren will certainly give him the opportunities again, because you want fighters that want to fight people, and Umar Sadiq is one of those. I'd like to match him with someone like I think we can forget Zach Parker, because he's bizarrely in a final eliminator for the WBO, which would make him mandatory for Billy Joe Saunders. Yeah, honestly, yeah. He's in a final eliminator for that. I'm sure he is. So, yeah, I'd like to see potentially for Sadiq the Richards fight, Rocky Fielding, Martin Murray. Richards is definitely the preference as the British champion. But after that, the likes of Murray, Fielding, Langford, Sadiq has certainly got the beating of those, in my opinion.
You just wonder as well, Oz. Sorry, Steve, when you go.
No, go ahead. You're okay.
I was just going to say, Oz, the other thing as well is, we were mentioning the last couple of weeks, there's been some fighters having to come through the last couple of fights, not looking good. For example, Ramirez. There was a fight there last week. Who was the other one, Steve, who were fighting last week there? Didn't look too good.
Oh, I can't remember, Andy, to be honest.
Doesn't matter anyway. But you just wonder as well as, if they're not getting the proper sparring and stuff like that. So if Sadiq had a proper camp, proper sparring partners and stuff, get the right type of sparring partner to fight with Chudinov and stuff. You just don't know with the restrictions going on with the gyms and stuff. Yeah. They get the right preparation. But it's still more than a commendable effort what you put up.
Exactly that. And look, and as we keep saying, he's took an opportunity, the common saying, dared to be great type of thing, but has come short. But I tell you what, more people are talking about him now than what he would have done, for fighting Lerone Richards. So it was well worth the risk. And like we say, I think a lot more people will be tuning into his next fight than what they would have done, if it was potentially against Richards or, somebody else. So, yeah, I'd like to see him again off the full camp, can clearly box. Just a shame he can't dig. That's probably, it's not a criticism because, you can't help that. But I always think you will only get to a certain level and you need that bit of power just to keep people off you or just to worry people. And it's a shame Sadiq doesn't have that. But he's clearly got skills and there's lots to like about him.
Herring was the other one I was thinking about, Steve.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, Andy, on Sadiq. I was going to say, I think he should be rewarded for what he's done. The fact he put his unbeaten record on the line against another guy like Chele, the fact that he then went and fought Cody Davis, he went over to Russia to fight Chudinov. I don't want people to say, oh, he's got 2 losses, he's done this and that. I think they should look at it and say that he should be rewarded for taking those risks and putting up such a good opportunity. Go ahead, sorry.
Absolutely, on you go as well. But as it says, if you are a trainer or a manager, a young fighter who you've got high hopes for and stuff, and you want him to be, get a wee bit of seasoning, get rounds, you're going to look at Ugas Sadiq off those last couple of fights, and you're going to say to yourself, maybe leave that maybe another year, maybe. We'll be letting maybe get a wee bit older. You just never know. But as it says, he's just got that attitude. He's going to come. He's going to fight. And he's going to go rounds as well. That's one thing. He's just desperate and unlucky just in the end
there. Danny Williams, Andy, did you want to have a quick word about him? Career goes on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does go on. Yeah, I suppose we've got another payday somewhere and stuff. But just on the opponent, that's Sergey Karatanov. He's a kickboxing champ. He fought in Bellator, fought in Pride back in the day and stuff. So. It's his professional boxing debut. He actually fought Hergovich in the World Boxing Series, and he fought another kind of top pro. Give me a second if you can pull this up. Actually, try to see who it was. It was actually quite a top name. It's an amateur boxer, Hellenius, who's potentially going to get a world title fight shortly. But that guy's 40-year-old. He's in tow with that Russian guy. Forget who he is and that, but. The way they were celebrating and stuff, it was like this great arrival. But sad to see, man, because there was nothing really on that shot. I don't think that sent Williams away across the ring like a wino. It was like kind of a left hook type shot. It didn't look like it landed with full force, and Williams is just in a kind of like stagger state. He's got to call it a day. Someone, again, as I say, someone needs to step in and just say to him, please just stop. But if he's got overheads to pay and stuff, then that's his business. And who are we to say that a man can't make money for his kids and stuff like that at the end of the day, So, it is what it is, I suppose.
It's a difficult one. You are listening to episode 390 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. Andy Patterson's there, Ozzy Smith, Rob Kelly alongside me, Steve. Plenty going on the chat that seem to be enjoying themselves, which is the main thing. Danny Williams soldiers on. Hopefully won't see him in a ring again soon, but no doubt we will. We'll be going to Kavelowski and Joet Gonzalez shortly with Andy. Before we do so, Rob, Sam Chatwin, friend of the pod, sent in a question over on patreon.com/boxing asylum. Have you ever known a fighter, Rob, to do so much media after a brutal KO loss as Dillian White? He's everywhere, Rob. Fronting up the cameras, he's old Dillian.
Woohoo! Tough one though, isn't it? Because we, as critics, if he disappears, then we're going to say there's no sign of Dillian White. Where's Dillian White? I tell you one thing, if he'd have given as many interviews after he got popped against Rivas, we would have probably appreciated it a bit more. He was nowhere to be seen then, but he's been on the press run now. I think the listeners onto something there. This guy, somebody put up a great tweet about it during the week. I don't know who it was. I want to give the guy credit, whoever he is. I'm sure Boxing Twitter will let him know who he is anyway. He put up a tweet, edited together loads of clips of the Sky panel and the Sky machine post Povetkin's knockout of Dillian White, and it's just so agenda driven. Like, you got 6 or 7 of them coming out, Macklin, Nelson, all of them with this lucky punch narrative, and Dillian White was completely dominating. I don't think he was he had him down, he had him hurt, and Povetkin looked in trouble, but I don't think it was as dominant as they're saying, and it definitely wasn't as dominant as they're saying, and that lucky punch thing, we've already dispelled that on here. There is no such thing as a lucky punch, especially from a fellow with that kind of a caliber. So I think the result's going to be the same this time out, man. I don't think Dillian White. I think there's something up there in the camp as well. Like, I don't think that Caldwell and the young trainer thing works for him. I think he needs I think he needs Tibbs or a guy of that kind of ilk working with him. I don't see the way it's said at the moment is they're talking about the rematch for the end of the year. The part of this press run was they got to get Dillian out. They got to get people clamouring for this rematch because they have to get him back into this mandatory thing to put off the fucking Tyson AJ thing, and that's not guaranteed either. Tyson Fury has to beat Deontay Wilder. Like, everybody is certain that Fury's going to win, and he is the favourite, but that's not a gimme. A fight against Deontay Wilder is never a gimme. So this could all be for nothing. He could get this rematch, and then fucking, you know, there could be another rematch clause for a fourth Fury Wilder fight. Who knows? Like, but it's all been done very purposely. This, you know, he's given his IFL interviews. Seems to be a lot of kind of coordinated drops there from that side of the road at the moment. In terms of interviews and stuff, we could probably get to that in value of the week. But yeah, like I said, fucking, we're getting this rammed down our neck that this Dillian White now has been unfortunate. You know, he waited 1,000 days for his mandatory shot. He should have had the shot for the world title, but was hit with a lucky punch from the gods by Alexander Povetkin, and now we have to see it again. But as I said, at the point I was getting to, I think Povetkin is the favourite in the rematch. I think he might do it earlier.
Ozzy, quick one from you on this situation. Tony Bellew was going the lucky punch route, so was Johnny Nelson. Nelson has since come out and apologised, a grovelling apology. Has he seen sense, or has Grandmaster Bean laid down the law?
It's disrespectful to a fighter of Povetkin's calibre, you know, to say it's a lucky shot. That was a set-up shot. It's not as if, you know, he's like gone in with his eyes shut, you know, just swinging blind, you know, like gung-ho. I mean, the aim of boxing is to hit your opponent. So there's no luck in it. The shot was set up. White ended up too square on and got banged on the chin. Lights out. To say it's a lucky shot is a disgrace. And it's this narrative. But the issue is, though, is people listen to it. Yeah, it was a lucky shot. It fucking was not. Povetkin tried, you know, he
set it up a few times.
He did set it up a few times, yeah, and he just didn't execute it. But Dillian White is susceptible to being hit by an uppercut. I think Joshua knocked him out with the uppercut. I think Rivas knocked him down heavy with the uppercut. I think Parker might have landed a big uppercut on him. So it's nothing new. But you don't know that. Unless you watch the fights, if you just go off what the comms say, you'll have it lucky. I mean, Adam Smith said it right when he called the fight. Alexander Povetkin, the guy who's not won a round in the... You know, he's not come close to winning a round. Says who? The two Sky commentators, Adam Smith and Matthew Macklin. It's garbage. Exactly. BT commentary was shit last night as well. I'm sick of it. It's destroying fights. I like John Rowling. I think he's decent. But fuck me, in the Bentley Heffron fight, it was shocking. It's a case of Bentley will do the good work, and they'll praise the chin of Heffron. Landing shots, no acknowledgement of it. The commentary on both Sky and BT at the moment is horrendous. It's so one-sided. I mean, they must think we're thick. And like I say it all the time, you're sat there and you think, right, am I reading this fight right? Because I'm seeing it completely different. But then you look online and it's people who I respect as well, you know, and they're seeing it the same way, say, I am, or, you know, like Andy is, or Steve, or Rob type of thing. And you think, these commentators ain't got a fucking clue. And what they always come out with is, you've never done what you're a hater. You've not boxed at an elite level. You're not a pro. Therefore, basically, my opinion is more valid than yours. Utter bullshit. We've seen some of these scorecards turned in by ex-pros, you know, when there is, you know, on co-commentary. And they're embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. So it's this narrative of basically they're a pro, they're always right. It's a myth, that. It is a myth. The best commentary you get is on MTK, because they're not aligned to a TV station. And when Box Nation was in its full flow, that was really good as well, because they just call the fight as it is. They didn't have to, you know, if the home fighter was getting beat, they'd call it. And if not, they'd call it fair type of thing. Now,
I think
the narrative pushed by the TV networks is so one-sided, it becomes unbearable, and you'd rather just turn it
Definitely.
off and watch it on mute and just study the fight yourself rather than listening to people who, I wouldn't mind. Woodall's a knowledgeable guy, can analyse a fight well. But again, just he's so one-sided. It's you think, well, what's the point? Why should I listen to you?
That's what I think as well.
Yeah, Macklin was excellent when he first came on the scene for Sky. Now he's just a yes man. He's a yes man and a waste. He's rubbish. In my opinion, as a commentator, he's shite now because he's biased, and he openly admits we're biased. We're going to be biased. Why?
Big time.
Why?
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing that frustrated me the most, because you're looking at a guy like Macklin, been in there at a high level, fought for a world title, I think 3 times, came up short, all right, but was always in a good fight and always gave a good account of himself and always tried to win fights and hung in there and dug in there and stuff. And then when you see him commentating on fellas who are doing the same and not giving him the credit for it, it's kind of galling. Like, and you're like, it's becoming more obvious that Sky and BT now have a pre-written script that they're having meetings in production and they're saying, yo, these are the house fighters. You speak about these guys. These are the money makers. I mean, look at it. Outside of AJ, who's the only one that's a pay-per-view star now that's with Matchroom? Fight-by-fight deal basis, albeit. But it's Dillian White. That's why we're getting all this fucking bullshit, because there's nobody else that they can actually sling in a pay-per-view if to back up AJ. Like, and they've got dates to fill. So we have to see this spin go into effect immediately. And the other thing that really pisses me off is that Povetkin said in the immediate aftermath, I rehearsed that shot 100 times in the gym. It's nice to see it come off. We tried it. You know, he'd been preparing to throw that punch, like, so to come out straight away and say it's a lucky punch and pull Dillian White and he'll be back and he'll learn from this and he'll be it's just so. And like Andy Lee, we love Andy, guest of the pod, friend of mine. Like, when he was commentating on the Ryder fight, it was like he was commentating on Smith the whole night. Like, he wasn't mentioning anything that Ryder was doing. It's like it's making me wonder. Are they being told in production, you guys have to toe the line, like, or else you're not going to be there? And I think as well, instrumental in his own downfall as he was, Paulie Malignaggi's a massive loss, because Sky used to wheel him in for the big fights and he's brilliant at calling it as it is. Just exactly what's going on in the ring, no bullshit, no agenda. He'll just tell you everything that's happening in the ring as you're watching it, which is great. Like, but you know, that's not Sky's fault. That's Malignaggi's own fault that he's not around for that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Imagine punishing a commentator or a co-commentator and not using him because he calls the fight as it is and not sticking to a narrative. And these guys come under more stick, and it says it all now when even, you know, like the more casual supporters are even saying, you know, like, so an example was the Shannon Courtney Rachel Ball fight, where you were looking at naturally you had the few people bumming up to Courtney who, you know, like want to sniff her socks and stuff like that and obsessed with her. But even a lot of the casual like supporters watching were saying, what the fuck is this commentary about? What is it about? They're not acknowledging anything Ball is doing. And I'm thinking, there's thousands of people watching this. We all can't be wrong, can we? We all can't be wrong. Naturally, there's going to be, you know, a difference of view and stuff. Fine. But we all can't be wrong. And the narrative, as Rob said, is too obvious. I think they have meetings before going on show saying, right, X, Y, and Z are the home fighters. We want you to focus on what these do, regardless. I mean, unless they get knocked out in the first, second round and they can't fix the fight. And even then, they'll probably praise the powers of recovery after the fight's been waved off. He's back on his feet now. Excellent powers of recovery type of thing. It's disrespectful to the other fighters. You know, the away. It said it all. Which was it? Macklin who said it when Crawler got the robbed the Spanish lad of a win.
Oh yeah. He deserved to be robbed.
Well, it doesn't matter because Crawler's retiring. Fuck that. It does matter. A win for that guy there over a former world champion could do everything for his career, but instead, it's a case of it doesn't matter. Crawler's retiring. What a disgrace. If the shoe was on the other foot, there would be uproar. And I say it now, people were talking about, you know, Sadiq going to Russia and saying, you know, he needs to do everything he can to get a knockout. The UK, in my opinion, is the worst country, set of countries in boxing to get a result from in the away corner now. You have to do everything to get an away result, because from the judges' cards we've seen, the commentary, everything is against you before you step in the ring. And I'd say now that it is the worst country for it, in terms of home cooking, because every week, I'm literally going near enough, every week we speak about poor cards, and the bulk of the fights are in the UK.
I think
but I
Andy
think
just
it's always been like that, Oz, as well, with the referees and that. Like, even going back, social media pumps it up a lot more, and we speak a lot more about it in the real time now. But like, I remember back in the day, even like watching Eubank, and he headbutted Eubank Senior. He was fighting a guy that was being trained by Sugar Ray Leonard, a Canadian guy called Dan Sherry, and Sherry went around him a la Lomachenko, and Eubank headbutted him backwards.
back headbutted him. Yeah, that's right.
Back headbutted him, and then the fucking fighter goes down. Now the natural thing is to DQ him, because if he can't continue, it's a stoppage. And the referee went to the card, and Eubank won. So he should have been disqualified. And they were like, "Oh fuck it, we just ripped the rule book up," and he goes to the cards and he wins. And like the British stoppage, Jesus Christ, how many times have we seen that over the years? Like, fella barely touches down, that's it, it's all over. But in terms of commentary, when you mentioned Box Nation, I think this was a Box Nation card. I don't know, my memory's a little bit hazy, but I think 99% it was a Box Nation card. But I loved at the time the way the commentator, I think it was Rawling actually, or Hall maybe, it was Amir Khan versus Danny Garcia, and the whole Khan was dazzling in the first 4 rounds, and the commentator says, will he really get this opportunity to fight Floyd Mayweather? Is he the one who can defuse Floyd Mayweather? Gets knocked out, and he goes after straight away. Where does he go from here? Floyd Mayweather, no chance. It's fucking brilliant.
I think, Andy, just as you were coming in there, what I would say is they need some kind of balance as well. I mean, I hear people saying, oh, you have to get ex-fighters. They know it. They've been there. And I think they do offer a lot. But I like the Lennox Lewis-Goosen dynamic on PBC, because like you can have Lennox Lewis in, he has been there and done it, and he knows from a perspective about feeling punches and what you need to do in certain strategic situations. But there's no point in getting him in there when you got like a 6-round flyweight fight between two Japanese guys on. You need like a journalist at that point who knows the fighters and can offer that context. So I think you need some kind of a balance between the knowledgeable guys in the ring and the knowledgeable guys out the ring too.
Well, how about just do it, what actually happens naturally in the ring? Call what happens. I mean, look, I think Christina Poncher's quite good at what she does. She just calls what she sees happening in the ring and stuff. So that's all you can ask. Or just like, I was listening to ESPN last night, for example. I think it was the Kavelowski's fight. They spoke for the entire second round of that fight, calling fuck all of it. All they did was speak about Crawford, the situations and all that sort of stuff, training purposes and all that stuff. And then Kriegel came in. I'm like, oh, story time with Kriegel. Here we go. There was not an ounce of chat or technical breakdown as to how that jab was thrown. What was he trying to set up there? Not a stitch. And I like that Bernardo Asuno and stuff like that, but he's not a lead commentator for me. Pistor's got his moments and stuff, but just stop talking so much. Just stop trying to fill the airtime and just let something happen naturally, because what's happening, we see it happen in the Sky and stuff. You'll see a good body shot land for the B side. It doesn't get mentioned on league commentary, but everything coming back gets mentioned, and it gets amplified. But nothing's coming back for what the opponent does well, or right hand the body and stuff. It just gets totally disregarded. I see Lewis and Goosen, they've got their fans, they get their critics and that as well. I think they're okay. But there's no happy medium. As I've said before, they're pushing their own narrative for their own networks and stuff. But as I say, just call it as you see it, and just stop talking all the time. Just be silent like the old days. Just let the fight happen, and if something happens, call it and just start talking about it, and just let it kind of flow, basically. Obviously, times have changed. They need to do this, they need to do that, whatever and that. But it is tiring. It's boring as fuck. And just listen to Bellew, Macklin, and Nelson this week, actually, especially Nelson kind of coming out having to apologise as well. I mean, that alone, to me, tells there's been words hard behind the scenes. That they doubled down to say that it was a lucky punch. As Spiddle says last week, that was 30 years in the making, that lucky punch. Then he fucking lands it right out of the blue, an arsehole winder when it really mattered. and they come out. You know, Bellew as well. You know, Bellew was the one that calls us out. You know, calling us out, says, "Look, you come to me, you speak to me. You know, once you've done it at my level, then you can talk to me and all that sort of stuff." Well, I'm sorry, Tony. Look, I maybe never fought at your level, but I can see that the fact is that shot was set up beautifully, and you're still calling it a lucky punch. So, what does that make me? Does that make me a hater? Am I a troll? Or am I still conforming to your fucking views and ideas that I'm as a company man? Right? Just be honest with us. Because at the end of the day, as well as, you know, I think as well, you know, the whole rigmarole, and we'll get to Dillian White and Bellew as well at some point. They're starting to see it. You know, the fans are starting to come through it, and the comments this week alone for Dillian White are starting to kind of like people saying, "Sky are disgrace." And people are not calling it out and allowed to. You know, Johnny Nelson says, Matthew Macklin, Tony Bellew, just in the last 10 days, and they're getting called out on it. So I think, and then obviously Nelson's coming out having to apologise and that as well. So I think there's words been had, rein it in a bit and stuff. But no, as I says, you know, if you look at that last build up to the fight camp for the White Pavitkin, it was a fucking jolly. They're all playing cricket. They're all slapping the high tens, high fives. You know, they're all having, you know, G&Ts and a bit of fucking strawberry pims and all that sort of stuff. It's just, you know, it's just job for the boys. So it is, and the girls, you know, as long as you kind of fit in. But no, it's just a joke, man. It's just the zone, well, dead zone, as you say, ESPN. We'll wait and see what Showtime kind of come up with over the next couple of weeks. They've got the cards starting again shortly. Sky are deplorable. BT are okay. I like, as Ozzy said, I like Woodall, but there is a, you know, he'll say it himself. I have watched amateurs and that, and when he commentates with Roland McIntosh, he's biased as fuck towards the British fighters. Always is biased. So there is that as well. So as I say, we've all got our biases. We've all got our favourite fighters and stuff. It's just never going to. It doesn't matter. Fans, commentators and stuff like that. It's never going to happen. But as someone who's on league television, mainstream television, I think as a professional, you've got to be neutral and just call it as you see it. And if you piss people off, then so fucking be it. We should tell them the truth, because Dillian White's not getting told the truth. Clearly, no. Not after this week's comments. There's nobody getting in his ear and telling him, you know, look, Dillian, just shut the fuck up, mate. Just come out, own it. Just say, hey, listen, I've got to figure this out for the rematch. I got caught with a good shot, but I've got to figure out how to make this better. And then that'll be it. People would just leave him alone. You know, that'll be it. There'd be no reason for Nelson to come out and to apologise. White's defused the whole situation. But no, he doubles down. I was up fucking within 3 seconds of that punch landing. Fuck me, dude. You were giving gas in there and put in the recovery position. Fucking Eddie Hearn shouting to his mom and dad to get you a fucking blanket and a fucking pillow. Just, you know, it's just a shambles, man. It's just a shambles.
Yeah, I like ESPN, the way they're sort of pretending to do neutral boxing news and stuff in between fights, and they have the big screen and they're like, oh, Canelo is fighting with Oscar De La Hoya, gleefully announcing this news, and they show Canelo with a big massive Top Rank sign right behind him on the screen and everything. Oh, they're just as bad with Christina Poncha. Moving on, Ryan Deal was asking what the latest is on Naoya Inoue. He's fighting the Australian Jason Maloney in the bubble, Ryan, on the 31st of October. Ryan was also proclaiming himself as a casual these days. He only tunes in for the big Pavitkin pay-per-views and the Effia Jagba Greatest Hits, which you'll be tuning into next week, no doubt, when 13-0 Effia Jagba makes his top-ranked debut on Saturday the 19th of September back in the bubble against Jonathan Rice. Jose Pedraza is also on that card against Javier Molina. Not going to bore you with that one, Rob. But what about Showtime? Andy mentioned earlier, Showtime back with a bang. Erickson Lubin against Terrell Gosha, vacant WBC silver super welterweight title. If Lubin gets past him, he'll be having a shot at somebody, possibly one of the Charlos, who knows. Also, King Tug on the undercard against Kabaya Breedy. Seen a bit of him. He's like a cut-price Tevin Farmer, in case you're wondering, Rob. Also, Jaron Ennis, one of the more exciting prospects in the sport, goes in against Juan Carlos Abreu. I'm a bit of a Showtime fanboy, PBC as I am. I like that card. What about Lubin against Gosha? If Lubin's going to do anything with himself, he's going to have to beat Gosha, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. But I'll give it. I'll put the lockdown factor into play as well. We've seen a lot of strange performances coming off lockdown with fellas going through the motions in fights where you think they should be doing better than, and I think it's going to be a bit of that. I think Lubin is going to get past him, but I don't think he's going to do it emphatically. I think Gouch is going to hang in there and give him problems. King Tug, I know many fellas in Wexford who will give that fella a run for his nickname. And Jerome Ennis, I like the look of him so far, but I could do without the tassels and all. I think you're kind of setting yourself up for a fall with all that shit. Like, sometimes with these fighters. Like, I mean, it looks great when you're beating nobody. You know what I mean? All this fucking Matador stuff with the tassels and the flash and all that. He's a bit of that, like, isn't he? I think he's mocking some opponents in the ring as well. I feel him. I don't like that. Like, so I'm not exactly. I think he's a good fighter, but I haven't warmed to him so far. And it's going to be shit commentary as well without Malnazi on Showtime. Although Bernstein's pretty good, but fucking Mauro on his own without Paulie, I don't know. Like, so yeah, the commentary's not going to be great there. But it's an alright card, I suppose. Fucking ho hum run of the mill enough shit though, isn't it? Really, like for Showtime, they're in trouble as well. Like, aren't they? They're putting on fights like that. Who they got at the moment, like on exclusive deals, Bronner. You know what I mean? So it's not good times for Showtime. They got Wilder still, but Wilder's not going to be fighting on Showtime next either, is he? So I don't know.
Yeah, I have confidence in Uncle Al. I know Espinoza has his critics, but I think he's a smart boxing brain. Espinoza comes from a lawyer background as well, worked in the game for a long time. I think he'll sort something out. Final fight from the weekend, Andy, we haven't covered yet. Back in the bubble again. Seems like it's all going on there. Anthony Chavez, shout out to him, got a win over Adam Gonzalez. Manuel Flores beat Jonathan Rodriguez. Rodriguez is way too small for the weight. He got stopped in the 5th round. Mariaga against Gonzalez. Thought Gonzalez boxed pretty well, but it was one-way traffic. It was repetitive. It was like Groundhog Day round after round. Gonzalez did very well. Mariaga was never going to get stopped. Gonzalez wasn't a hard enough puncher to stop him. We've already seen Gonzalez getting not destroyed, but completely outclassed and outboxed by Shakur Stevenson. So we know his level. We know his ceiling. We knew this was going to be a rebuilding job for him. And also in the main event, mentioned last week, Mikhail Zesuki. I think he was doing well, possibly winning the fight against Kavelowski's. Good work with the left hook, had the better footwork, but Kavelowski's caught him with that right uppercut. Talk to me about that, Andy, that right uppercut he landed at the end of the 7th round. That was some shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked like Zesuki just kind of like, not so much stepped into it, but I suppose he did, but he kind of like stepped in, but also dropped the head at the same time. So, probably got a wee bit more, impact on the shot and stuff. Definitely looked out of it, and I suppose obviously it landed at the right time in that as well, and come out like an old vet, I suppose, even though he's got 20 odd fights, and just ends it within 10 seconds of the 8th round and stuff. Zesuki, who I said to you last week, I had never seen him before, so I watched one of his fights during the week there. It was one of Crawford's undercard fights and stuff. He looked okay. He looked a good puncher.
Capable, yeah.
Switched it up, head and body and stuff. So, put on a good display. Actually, just a wee bit of shame that he got caught because he was up in the cards. He was up in 2 of the cards, I believe.
Oh, right, okay.
67, 65. So he'd obviously put up a good showing and stuff. So I reckon he'll maybe get more opportunities and stuff. As I said, he looks competent. Gonzalez, well, I think he heard his dad in the corner, that kind of urging him to kind of pick up the pace and that, and that's what he's done. And I just think in the end he's just beat up Mariaga, didn't he? He just kind of pushed him, pushing forward, swelled up his eyes and stuff, and landing the far heavier blows. And Mariaga just couldn't make the adjustments defensively to kind of deal with it, or even deal with any attacking. That I think even 34, 35 now. I think that'll be his opportunities kind of dried up now, the kind of ESPN level and stuff. So I'm sure a few fans will be kind of glad to see that, because he said, okay, I think he was meant to be fighting Shakur Stevenson at some point as well, and then the fight got called off because of the virus landed as well. So
that was right before the virus hit, because Conlon was going to fight that week as well, wasn't he?
Was it? I was on the undercard, wasn't he? I'm sure he was. Well, obviously, I mean, he pushed Valdez all the way, and that was a few years ago now, and then Lomachenko's made him pull out, but he's done nothing since then, really. And this was really his kind of ticket back to the big time, and he just got dominated. So I think basically he's for here on in, unless he gets the right opponent at some point or he gets lucky, I think he's just going to take on the status now as probably a gatekeeper, maybe even a latter point journeyman if he wants to keep going.
Yeah, just before we go on to Belly of the Week, Sandy, just briefly going back to the Zesuki fight, MB says Zesuki never recovered from the first uppercut. I think Zesuki was a little bit naive and maybe guilty of being a bit of a nice guy. If you notice, at the beginning of every round, Zesuki came out, put his glove out to touch it every single round, and after he got dropped badly and hurt, and I think Kenny Bayless was ready for stopping him, he got up at 9.5, Bayless had a look at him, the bell had already gone, so he gave him in between rounds. Zesuki comes out in the 8th round, puts the glove out to touch gloves with Kavelowski's again. Kavelowski's like, fuck that, just starts laying into him and completely batters him. I think Zesuki was a bit naive.
It was naive, but at the end of the day, Kavelowski knew himself, actually. I mean, that was a crossroad fight for him, wasn't it? if he lost that, it was really it was a long road back. So he's like, fuck you, man. No, Mr. Nice Guy, I'm just going to destroy you. And in the end, it's a fucking fight. You got to take every opportunity you can get, and if you see an opening, take it. I mean, we spoke about Dal Magani last week and stuff. I like a wee bit of dirty fighter and that when he's throwing in the right hooks, but he's just kind of like bringing the elbow in behind it. So I've no problem with that.
Absolutely. Let's move on. We've talked about everything. I might throw a few questions in at the end if we've got time. Let's get on to the belly of the weeks and drop this in.
Let's be totally and brutally honest here. Sean Corbin makes Valery Brudov look like Ivan Drago. It's as simple as that. He's beat what's in front of him tonight. He faces me. He's going to visit mental demons again. And let's get something straight. Come to me, mate. You come to me. Next time, ain't no judge is going to be needed. I'm going to do worse than Kovalev. I am going to do worse than Kovalev.
On Saturday night, mate, you better hold it together. I'm going to smash it near you to pieces, mate. I'm going to hit him. When he gets in the ring and we get 10-ounce gloves on, I'm going to smash his head to bits. I'm going to do it November the 30th against all odds. No matter what people say, the journalists write what you want. All as I'll say is tune back in and then look at me on December the 1st when I am world champion. It's as simple as that.
I'm willing to die in that ring. It's as simple as that. I am willing to die. I'm willing to die, Sadiq. Is he?
You fucking rat!
There's Tony, everybody. You fucking rat. It's Andy as we move on to Belly of the Weeks.
I don't want to hear anything, by the way. Unless Dillian White wins it this week, and I don't want to hear any other nomination. That is an abomination he said this week. Dillian White. Jesus, suffering Christ.
Apparently, Glenn McCrory is on the source, Andy. This is breaking news, so that could be worth having a look over on Twitter if you're not busy.
Buy that man a drink. I'll go and have a wee swatch at that.
Good old Glenn. While Andy's looking for Glenn, we'll get stuck into Belly of the Week. We had the first one phoned in by Andy Jones, but the lawyers have got stuck in on this one, so I'm not going to read it out until we've had it fully checked. So I'll just put this screenshot up on the screen. So if you're listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or SoundCloud, or you're dropping likes, come on over to YouTube and you can see that one on the screen. The lawyers have got involved, so I'm not gonna read that one out. Dean Glover is the first nomination. Then Billy Graham. Which of my fighters didn't quite achieve what I think they could have? Paul Smith Jr. had a great career, says Billy, and I love him as a lad. I think he could have knocked people out at world level. I think I take a lot of blame for that, says Billy Graham. Next one is nominated from Dominic, talking about the old Frampton McGuigan situation. What's going on here then, Andy? I tell you what, Frampton may be 10-9 down after the first round, I think. The boys are in court, arguing back and forward over... tax and stuff. How's it going in the courtroom from your observations?
I don't know, mate. I'd rather keep out of this type of situation, but it's something to... I say to you guys as well, I'm not wanting to get too much into detail, but after the Santa Cruz first fight, press conference and stuff, the question came up about the rematch and stuff, and Carroll actually came out and says, there's no rematch, and McGuigan came out straight away and says that there was. So I don't think Carroll's really been, he's been put in the know, shall we say, with certain situations. So I don't want to say too much. The figure is significant, so I can understand why there's 4 million reasons as to why this is going to get ugly, and there'll be a lot of shade getting thrown, I would imagine. So we'll wait and see how it goes, but. Yeah, that's it. I think it's still in court. We shouldn't really be commenting too much anyway because it's still a legal matter at the end of the day.
We don't want to destroy the court proceedings here, Andy, on the asylum.
Yeah, so.
Shout out to Ronnie Hussein. Coincidence, maybe, who knows, on this being in Belly of the Weeks. Ronnie got married on Friday. Congratulations. He's definitely punching above his weight. Belly of the Week for you, Ronnie, I think, for getting married. Good luck to you. That's all I'm going to say, Andy. He's going to need it. An experienced man like yourself, Andy, you have to get stuck in and sort it out, don't you? These women are hard to handle.
You got it, mate. You got to put your foot down with a firm hand.
Absolutely. Kenny Wood has been nominated for Belly of the Weeks. Nice one, Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith, and Matchroom Boxing, says Kenny. Fits perfect. Matchroom boxing t-shirt. Get the blue and grey ones out now. Bring out some jumpers, Eddie, and some hoodies for the winter, please. And then a little fist emoji Yeah, who knows where that fist will be going. Thomas Stalker has been nominated from Gary Kavanagh. When his mind is in the right place, Dave Allen is a dangerous fighter, and his mind is definitely in the right place right now. The return of the Rhino, TBA soon. Can't get Ozzy's view on that. He's jumped off the call, unfortunately. No Consent Boxing has nominated Nigel Benn, talking about the Idris Virgo fight. That was good to see you, my friend. I hope you spark him out good, says Nigel. Well, the fight took place about 6 days ago, so it went to point, Nigel, in case you're wondering. Zeconomics has nominated Ricky Hatton, celebrating September the 11th, which was the day he won his first fight, a KO against Kid McCauley back in 1997. Good old Ricky. Tony Bellew has been nominated by Trading Leather Boxing. Live on TalkSport now, Alan Brazil currently holding him hostage to talk about Everton. Dan Desmond Properties, this is our friend Des over on Twitter. Good lad is Des. Nominated Clarissa Shields. The reason boxing doesn't let women fight the same amount of time as the men, says Clarissa, is because the stats would embarrass some of its best fighters. They'd also see that some women are in better shape, have better stamina, and can get KOs just as the men. The comparison would make guys cry, says Clarissa. So she's letting things rip on
shut up,
Twitter.
like, would she? Never have a fucking rest like Clarissa Shields. Nobody gives a shit, man. About that's not why the rounds are not 3 minutes, right? Whatever the reasons are, I don't know exactly what they are, but it's not because they're going to make male fans of the sport cry, right? Fucking hell, Clarissa Shields.
Nomination for Clarissa is there as well, coming in from
Clarissa
Rob.
explains it all.
Clarissa explains it all. That's a niche reference there. If you're old enough to remember that, that was a good show from back in the day. Andrew McCormick has nominated DAZN, approved Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders for Canelo, but not as premium guys. Wanted to dramatically cut the license fee. I'm told DAZN would consider De La Hoya, George Masvidal, and I'm not sure who the other one was, Andrew, because I've accidentally cut it off. But suffice to say, we'll be discussing that next. Was it Mag? Was it? Oh.
No, it's just you got that wee gimp Frank Smith and that saying, "Oh, they need to keep up with us. We're just outspend you." So how's that working for you again? Arsehole.
Evening, Frank.
Good evening, Edward.
Evening, Edward.
Evening,
Frank. Psychological Clever Sitole has nominated Richard Larty. Options on Larty. He couldn't get in the country to fight Nathan Gorman. Fight being pushed back. Andy, this is right up your street. David Almond, 86. Unboxing scene. Dillian White. I got dropped. I wasn't Sparko. I got up straight after. Discuss.
I don't think there's that much to discuss, mate. To be honest, disgusted by the comments and stuff. As I say, I just said it there. Look, if he come out and just says, "I got iced off," it can happen. You know, at the end of the day, you're a trained professional fighter, trained to knock people out, right? It happens. Just come out and own it, and then people wouldn't give you shit. But this is the stuff that people are talking about. This delusional stuff, right? Just own it. But yeah, listen, mate, you were sparked. You were on your back, legs flat out, right, flatlined. You seen Eddie shout to Barry in the cupboard, "Go get to the air cupboard, get me a blanket and a fucking pillow." You had the ambulance coming in with the oxygen mask. You were put in the recovery position. You were then sat up against the ropes like a fucking drunk in the streets looking for a fish supper, right? And that was the sparkled. It was the sparkled. That is antithesis what it looks like to get knocked out. Because I think, Tister called it right, Adam Smith called it right. Who's your man that Carol Frampton does the podcast with? Chris Lloyd. They all called it the same. Knocked out, ruined, sparked. It's just there's no other word to put it. You were iced. Look, Dylan, you could have counted to like 60. You were still wanting prepared to fight on. So own it. And it'd have been nothing would have been said, but no, you just double down on it. And the people who've got behind you, allowing you to say that shit, should be saying to you quietly, "Dylan, just shut the fuck up. Just shut up. You're ruining yourself. Maybe you're still concussed. Maybe you haven't seen it back, but Christ, dude, I mean, you should know it. You took an astral travel trip after that fucking left.
Told you, Andy, he was knocked out that heavy. Eddie had him putting the bins out on the Thursday, so you might as well lie here anyway. It's the green one this week, Dillian. Rob Kelly's flying in with Craggy Island, Rob. Tom's dropped in a $5, so's Father Jack Hackett. He says girls. I'm sure that's something you can get on board with.
Well, look, I'm thinking it's very comparable to the Super Chat carry-on is very comparable to the White Povetkin fight because you think you're in total control and you've hit the jackpot, and then you go to make the withdrawal and boom, everything is fucking out. There's nothing there anymore. It's complete darkness. So yeah, tough at the top. Thanks, Father Jack Hackett, for the £5 donation. We look forward to spending that.
Tony Bellew
on drink.
What about Bellew, Andy?
Bellew seems $1 million punch, right? And you knew it because he never celebrated like that before at a previous fight or a previous knockout. Well, Tony, that's because he isn't at the end of his career back at them days, who isn't fighting to save his career, just pulls off the knockout of the year, potentially, to save his career, his world title aspirations. But no, it was $1 million punch. He'd never celebrated that. That's how you knew it was $1 million punch. Again,
how did he? Is that just you just grab that out like, oh, look how happy Pavek is. He knew he was in the fucking trenches there. Like he probably was. That's why he celebrated. He was. He'd been down twice in the previous round. It's not like he fucking, you know what I mean. But that's boxing. Like, don't be trying to rewrite the narrative. Like, fucking hell.
Stop it! Stop the fake news! Stop!
I agree, Porky. I agree.
Glenn McCrory has been nominated by Declan Graffin, not for tonight's escapades, but I'm going to go and have a look in a minute what Glenn's been up to. Ring me, Mike, says Glenn McCrory, below Mike Tyson on Twitter. He's a legend, Glenn. I love Glenn. Right up our street. Official Dermo, Tim, has nominated Dirk Stoggio. What's the fun in making a fight between two people in the same promotion, says Dirk, in response to the proposed Billy Joe Saunders-Demetrius Andrade fight? You can't root for one or the other. We prefer matchups with someone from outside the promotion, says Dirk Stoggio, supporting promoters here on a Sunday evening. Colin Simpson has nominated Tony Bellew. I've never seen Povetkin show emotion in 15 years. He screamed at the top of his voice when he hit White. He knows that's a one-in-a-lifetime punch. He'll never land a punch like that again, says Tony. LF Doom has nominated Bellew of the Week for anyone who had a bet on Ziani to beat Dil Magani on points last week. Fair shout out, LF Doom. Fair shout out. Frank Warren was on rare form last night. Dobson Boxbet has nominated Frank. Look at the length of his trousers. It's annoyed me all evening. I know Box Nation and Frank generally has had some tough years. He's clearly wearing children's clothes here nonetheless. I'll tell you what, Frank was all over the place last night, talking about people getting stopped who just lost on points, calling Mark Heffron Tommy all the way through the interview, even though it was his dad, mixing up Dubois and Yard. Frank's lost the plot, Andy, and I love it. We need more of him on the mic.
I'm not saying that. I can't afford a lawsuit. But I'm just trying to get this Tony Bellew video, by the way. What the fuck? I don't think I've deleted it, man. Fucking hell. Oh, on you go, mate. Sorry. No, I've not deleted it. I'll find it.
Free Terry Waite, says Finton Stack. There's one from the past there. Let's party like it's the Iraq War. Send that one to my Twitter, Andy. I might be able to get that up for you. I can't do it on the StreamYard chat. Try it on my Twitter. Talking to Twitter, O'Hara Davis has been nominated for tweeting out O'Hara Davis. Obviously, searching his own name, says Sam at Glaz La Glaz. Is that Sam Dorset? Maybe might be under a new name. Nomination for Christina Poncha, talking on the ESPN broadcast. This one's coming from me, by the way. She was announcing the fact there's a super cruiserweight division being considered by the WBC, and they are proposing Deontay Wilder versus Alexander Usyk for the first title bout, just in case those two guys haven't got anything else to do. Christina went on to say this was being reported in the UK's Sun newspaper. So, all right, Christina, thanks for that.
the Sun, the bastion of truth. The people that brought us Hillsborough, Jesus, suffering, man. The bastions of truth, they're fuckers, man. The Sun, I wouldn't make my arse wet, man.
Yeah, stick the fish and chips on that. Christina using it as a sauce, HP sauce maybe. Andrew McCormick is nominated Odis Markovsky. Odis said there was no one else to fight him. At least he's not ducking no one like Lomachenko. Who's he talking about, you might ask? Devon Haney, nonetheless. This is in response to a tweet from Matchroom, who put out an on this day tweet, Andy. On this day in 2019, Devon Haney won the interim WBC world title in New York City, shattering Zor Abdullahev's orbital bone to end the fight in the fourth. I mean, I know we have on this days, like, say, I don't know, Pernell Whitaker fought Chavez or Alan Minto or somebody, Matthew Saad Mohammed won such and such. On this day back in 2019, Devon Haney got Ivan, how you got emailed the world title in New York interim. There you go.
The unified Gmail and Yahoo.com champion. Yeah. Jesus. So.
Oh dear. We'll all remember where we were when that happened. Nomination there from Andrew McCormick. Porky Ross is nominated. Matchroom Bots Kevin Greaves was tweeting out furiously. Any news on the fan attendance at the Dubois fight, Frank? And he put this like repeatedly below Frank Warren's Twitter, just one after another. So a suspected bot there. Also a nomination for Johnny Nelson about the Sky Sports bios. Already covered that one for you, Russ. Nomination again coming in from Russ for Kugan Cassius. For doing daily bollocks with his interviews. First of all, the Froch interview about Femi, where Froch said Joshua got beat. There was the private chat that Coogan filmed and put out. That was sneaky. The Mark Tibbs interview that Dillian told Coogan to take down. Also, Shannon Courtney's interview, crying for her first loss, highlighting mental health, doing it on World Suicide Day, disabling the comments. I've done so many videos, and she is part of the Matchroom cult, blah, 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 says Porky. Nomination for her. I think that's all the ones I've got, actually. I know a big front runner, Andy, this week was Dillian White for you. Yes. Any other nominations?
Well, I sent you that one, mate, about the Matthew Macklin and Tony Bellew comments on Twitter there. So if you
okay, keep going and I'll bring that one up.
Yep, no problem. So I'm going to ping up Idris Virgo. He's been on for $100,000. I think it got up as well with Stephen Goodwin. Apparently he made comments about Liam Williams and all that sort of stuff. So Liam Williams responds, "Fuck's sake, this clown's embarrassing himself badly. I'll go to his gym next week if he wants." And of course, Idris Virgo's nowhere to be seen for comments, so maybe his arse has collapsed.
Liam Williams is trying to make a name off Idris Virgo, according to him. That's what he said. Like, these people are nobodies. Like, we've seen this before, man. Like, you're not as charismatic as even Prince Patel. So what is that telling you, man? Like, this angle is not going to work for you. Like, I mean, you were on Love Island fucking 2 years ago. You haven't even got a big following on the fucking social media, man. Relax, like. Oh, that guy's unbearable. Has he not learned anything from O'Hara Davis? Fuck's sake.
2 nominations for Thomas Treiber for one for getting the wrong winner in the Ali fight, and for asking the people to for a moment's silence for Alan Minter when there's no fucker in the actual arena. That was a wee bit too early for that one, actually, but it still stands. Late one as well. I don't know if anybody's on Instagram and stuff, but I follow Sergey Kovalev. So Sergey Kovalev's away doing this thing today with his youngest son. It's like something like Go Ape, so you kind of like climb up the trees on a zip line and stuff, and you go across these assault courses and stuff. So it gets to the zip line part, and the wee man's just not having it. He's not forgotten across the zip line, and he's fucking screaming, he's welching, he's like shrieking. It's not happening. Kovalev is like, "You're fucking gone." It just fucking pushed him straight down the line, and the wee man's got in the fucking light, and you can hear. I don't know what Sergey's saying to him, but you can see the wee man head. I thought it was like Kevin McAllister on Home Alone heading for the treehouse, right out through the back end. It was just the speed he was going down it. But he got used to it in the end, so I thought Kovalev was top parent there, just like, fuck your fears, just go on with it.
Just goes to show you. Just goes to show you, Andy. You never know. You never know who you could bump into at the zip line, and so you'd want to be careful what you say to fellas around the zip line, because you never know who could be
there. I've got that ready, Andy, if you're ready now.
Yeah, when you go, mate. That's my last one anyway.
Okay, cheers, dude. Let's get on with this. Andy sent in again via Sam.
A week, and we're going to be biased every single week there ever is, because I literally landed $1 million punch me, the punch of his career. And when, you know it's the punch of his career when he never responds like that and reacts when he wins like that.
For a shot that would probably land out of every 1,000 times you threw it, it would land once.
Then he gets caught with a lucky shot, and it was luck.
Pavecki just wasn't in the fight. He didn't win a round.
That was his last roll of the dice there, Pavecki. He's gone, mate. He's on the verge of being stopped himself.
Take nothing away from a very good one. Shot from Alexander Pavecki, and he's knocked Dillian White cold here in the 5th round, and that is extraordinary.
A week, and we're going to be
going back on Mackley again. I'll tell you what, Spencer Oliver looked like he'd had a few there. Very good.
So same mates jobs for the boys, isn't it? So they're all in it for a good time, barbecue, and having speak to Joy Nelson,
hanging around with Anna Woolhouse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Chukwu's getting stuck in the Anna Wallhouse chat. I think he's going to ditch Judge Judy at this rate. Any nominations from you, Rob?
What's his fucking face is back at us this week. Gary Russell Jr. Apparently now the beef is with Haney. I think he's clocked during lockdown that people only talk about this fellow when he opens his mouth, because you don't see him in the ring. So I don't even want to go on a rant about him. He's just a painful little idiot, like, isn't he? So apparently there's a fight deal in the work to fight Haney. So we get to see Haney and him fight each other at least. That might be a positive, but certainly not listening to Gary Russell Jr. like he's painful. But yeah, no, just the regular that guy who edited that clip together was brilliant. Like we hear all the shit week in week out when we're talking about it, but to hear it all lined up there, like, it's embarrassing. Like, it's absolutely embarrassing.
We got to be biased every single week. You know, it's like the time when Brook beat Sean Porter. One of the cards I think was pretty. It was a close fight, close scores. But one of the cars was a wee bit wide, and Dick Holland says, "Oh, we won't care about that." But it's because they're right. You know, their man won. That's the fucking end. That's it. That is it. Billy Britt. That's what it's all about.
Okie dokie. Then who we're going to go for? Then Andy, who's
Dillian
your
White.
nomination? Dillian White.
Dillian White, without question. Honestly, it was like it's not even as bad as Carl Froch blaming the volcano. It's not as bad as Carl Froch claiming 2 weeks after getting beat off Ward that it was a close fight. This is worse. This is beyond worse, by the way. In about a month's time, see, by the end of the month, this will be I was up at the count of 2, but the referee waved me off. That's how it will be. I guarantee it. But the total, you talk about yard revisionism against Kovalev. This whole knockout will be erased from memory by the time the rematch happens.
I know, historical revisionism class, isn't it? I'll go for Dillian White as well then, Rob. I take it's going to be a threesome.
UD for Dillian baby thing this week. That's like, I'm delighted I came up with that just there. Baby thing.
Brilliant stuff from Rapping Rob Kelly there. Episode 390.
Maybe throw some other fibre there from Craggy Island for that original material.
Absolutely. Father Dick Byrne, he's jumping in as we speak. Okay, congratulations, Dillian. Belly of the Week, episode 390. Let's do a bit of housekeeping before we finish up then. We'll be talking about Alan Minter very shortly. Before we do so, I was hoping to get Ozzy's opinion on this, but he has left us. Saul Farah's back on October the 30th, 2020.
Ozzy's still christening the new gaffy. He's in that phase. He's like, I have to fucking jump off the pod before half night. You know what I mean? Still getting busy in the new gaff, Ozzy. Doing well sexually. On a roll on tonight.
Absolutely, christening it like a prime Ronnie Hussein. Saul Farah says, I will defend my national championship title of Bolivia for the full weights. I don't know what that means. Maybe he could be fighting at different weights on the same night. In the city of Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Bolivia, before the challenger challenge Cruceño Marco Kenny La Mole Vizcarra in a fight to 12 rounds. Here, images from the press conference that was held at the Hotel Radisson, 5 stars, no doubt, from the city of Santa Cruz. Says Saul. So good luck to him, I suppose. Just before we move on, Andy, a quick one for you from Ted Barrett. He threw it in last week. I don't know what your opinions are of this. Ted says there's too many weights in boxing, Andy, as it is. If you had to get rid of a weight class, what would it be? Mine would be super flyweight, says Ted, as it is too easy for flyweights to fluctuate between the weights of super fly and fly or vice versa. If you were to get rid of a weight class, what would it be, Andy? Heavyweight for the lols, maybe?
just one weight class.
Just get rid of one. Ted says super fly because you would generally probably get rid of the lower ones, wouldn't you? Because the fluctuations in weight are a lot less.
I suppose. I mean, you've got 3-4 pound stuff, but in the day, these wee guys like 5'2", 5'3", and that it is a lot for them actually. At the end of the day, I'm going to say. I'm probably going to go and say minimum weight. Actually, I think these guys could move up a couple of pounds. What's it? 3 pounds? I think it is the 108, the light flyweight.
Minimum weight is the lowest of the low, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the lowest low because it was called way back in the paperweight, nat weight, flea weight, all that sort of stuff and that. So I just think
a straw weight, then a straw weight is it?
Straw weight, basically straw weight, mini weight, and all that sort of stuff. That's where Ricardo.
Get rid of them little fuckers, like get rid of them. Somebody get that fucker out there. Get rid of them. Get them out of here, man. Let them fucking fight in midget boxing or something. Fuck out of here. Get there.
If you had the guys for 105 and 108 mixing in one weight class, it would just expand it, vastly. I think, and they're talking about Cali was talking about Series 3 for the World Boxing Super Series and that, and the hardcore's like the beyond hardcore are wanting like flyweight for the next series, and that's wait and see what happens.
I'm not sure if it'll happen, to be honest. But anyway, there you go, Ted. That's that one answered. Yeah, final one then, Andy. We'll start with you. Go on to Rob as well. R.I.P. Alan Minter died at the age of 69 after a battle with cancer, obviously before all of our time, but no doubt we've seen quite a few Alan Minter fights. Fought in the Olympics 1972. Got robbed by all accounts of the going on from the bronze medal. Had a bit of an inauspicious start to his pro career. Seen quite a few of his fights, especially the one against Marvin Hagler. I just want to address something. I know I'm pretty sure people know where I'm going to go with this. A lot of people I've noticed during the week have boiled Minter's whole career down to the issue before the Hagler fight, obviously the racial slur. And I think that is a huge detriment to Alan Minter. You know, I'm not going to go into virtue signaling and blah, blah, blah. But the fact it was like a sort of throwaway comment, him and Hagler dealt with it afterwards. He apologised and all that. There was talk of Hagler apparently saying something similar to Kevin Finnegan that was never substantiated. I think you know, when you think of Bernard Hopkins, for example, I think of the Felix Trinidad fight. I think of the Oscar De La Hoya fight. Never lose to a white boy. We know Devin Haney's come off with stuff like that. I think it's bullshit, to be honest. To, you know, not to brush over it, but to make it just about that and nothing else. Like everyone who's put a thing out to Alan Minter, and you see people in the comments going, "Oh, he was a racist." He was I think that's bollocks, to be honest, man. You know, and I'm not having that at all. I think Minter was a fantastic fighter, and that should be dealt with separately, which I have done just there.
Yeah, I think so as well, mate. And he didn't drop the N-bomb. He didn't use that. So if people are saying that what Haney said wasn't racist recently and that, then what Minter says, ain't no black man going to beat me in that. How is that racist? So if you're going to give Haney a pass, I think you can give Minter a pass as well. As I say, I think the man who made the comment to it, he was big enough to own up to it. He spoke to him face to face, apologised. It was accepted. So I think the two people who were involved, if they want to sort it out, I think everybody else should just shut the fuck up because, you know, as I say, at the end of the day, you know, he owned up to whatever it was, and then the guys just dealt with it like men, and that's just the way it was handled. You know,
I think you're right. Like, I think, I mean, a fighter like Alan Minter, despite what he did in the ring, he could be the biggest scumbag outside the ring. He wasn't. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have to kind of learn to separate fighters. Like if you're looking to be on the moral high ground, fighters are not where you should look like. Most of them are not come from good educational backgrounds. Most of them have rough times. They're not articulate guys. Sometimes they say wild shit. Like it doesn't. You know what I mean? What do you think Jake LaMotta was calling Robinson? You know, you see him raging bull. What were they calling him? Like, so does anybody think any different to Jake LaMotta? No, the people learn and grow, and they're living a different time.
What were they calling Jake LaMotta as well? You know, they were racist towards him back in the day as well. You know.
Of course, they're fighters. Do you know what I mean? They're not role models. Well, they are role models, but they're not like you know, you should be going to them for your moral guidance. So I think like best focused on Minter's career, brilliant fighter, 2 wins against Vito Antifermo. I think a win against Emil Griffiths as well, a later version of Emil Griffiths. So a tough fighter, got beat by one of the lost his world title to one of the greatest middleweights ever. A lot of people have Marvin Hagler as the number 2 middleweight of all time. Not for me, but he's up there. And brilliant career. Rest in peace, Alan Minter.
Yeah, well said. I think undisputed middleweight champion, 2-time European champion, 2-time British champion. I just wanted to I just felt it was worthy mentioning that because, like I say, not to overlook it or to excuse it or to say anything about it, just acknowledge it. Okay, you know, it's happened, blah blah blah. But to like I said, to boil it down and say, oh, you can't celebrate it because of so, I think it is bullshit to Minter. And back in the ring, Andy, obviously the Antifermo thing and the controversy over the one judge gave it to Minter by like 12 rounds in a 15-round fight, and then he came back and fought again against, was it Mustafa Hamsho, I think, before Sibson knocked him out in the final fight. And he was a classy fighter. Obviously, it was cuts was the big thing. Stopped 8 times. 8 of his 9 losses came through effectively from cuts, didn't they?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think I mentioned to you guys maybe 2 months ago or whatever it was. And that, can you imagine, you know, if they didn't have if the cut rule today was still in effect? Because back then, and it was an instant TKO loss. It didn't go at the cards. It was if you couldn't continue, that was it. You were stopped. So I just wonder how many decisions they might have got on the cards if the new cut rule was in effect and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I actually had to go back and watch the Olympic fight against the West German. I think it was held in West Germany actually.
Yeah. Munich, wasn't it? It was the year of the bombings and all.
It was with the Palestinians and stuff. But I heard Black September. I heard it was either Guttridge or Carpenter were doing the commentary, and going into that third round of that that Olympic semi, he was apparently behind on the cards, according to the commentator at least. But Minter put a fucking beating on the German by it, dropped him, hammered him, and he still lost the fight on the card and stuff. Now, I understand getting dropped in amateur fights and stuff doesn't automatically result in a point getting deducted off your card and stuff, so maybe that was an effect, but he beat him up in that third round. So just based off that third round, I've got to say he won it. He fought everybody as well. I mean, we could mention the Angelino Jacopucci fight as well, where he went to Italy, won the vacant European title. Unfortunately, Jacopucci died after the fight. What a knockout! He beat him up in the 12th round, knocked him out. And the ringside doctor later up getting found guilty of manslaughter and got jailed for it as well. So goes to America, beats Antifermo, rematches him in the UK, beats him. The Hagler fight was beset with riots and stuff like that. It was pretty ugly scenes and stuff. But by this point, Minter's had Minter retired the year I was born and stuff. So I can't really kind of talk too much in great detail about myself. I can only talk about the fights that I've seen and what I recall. He beat Kevin Finnegan. I think it's 3 times. Was it British, Commonwealth, European title fights possibly? Sugar Ray Seals, who was Olympic gold medalist. Emil Griffiths.
Good fighter, Andy.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sugar Ray Seals. Remember we did Punches from the Past.
Yep.
Chris Finnegan, who was Kevin's brother, also a proper fighter against Bob Foster. Seals featured in that one, I think.
He did. Bad eyesight in that as well. He beat Emil Griffith, who I think it was his last fight of his career actually. So you got to say that's a faded, washed up version. Emil Griffith by that point, and also he's been through the situation with I forget his name, the guy he killed at the minute. He's out the ring for a wee bit in that as well after Hagler, and then he comes back that year, loses 2 fights and retires. And that he was a very, very good fighter, very hard puncher, liked a war, just propensity to cut and stuff. But I think he's Britain's last undisputed clear middleweight champion.
I would
as
be.
well. So I mean, since Kevin Finnegan 3 times, fought a lot of good fighters in his time and stuff. Probably the only fighter as well to be, fighter to be disqualified along with his opponent at one point for not trying hard enough in the pro fight. So they had a rematch as well. I think he won the rematch. I think I might have lost. I can't remember off the top of my head, but. So mate, listen, I didn't even know he was seriously ill actually. So that's maybe a wee bit ignorance on my part. So RIP Alan Minter, absolute warrior, and he'll be sadly missed. And hopefully at some point, maybe with him be his being Britain's last or England's last, whatever affiliation is, to maybe get a statue down in his hometown of Sussex or wherever he was born, because Olympic medalist, multiple-time British, European champion, and a world title holder as well. So, great career. RIP.
Absolutely well said, Andy. Yep, Jim McDonald just finally said, what's Chukwu's opinion on Minter? Jason, Chukwu was actually the first person to DM me about it with the old RIP, so Chukwu was well on board. Thanks for the boys as well who've been on board tonight. Let's end the show, shall we? Episode 390. Thanks to Rapping Rob Kelly. Andy Patterson, Ozzie Smith was with us as well. So was Stephen Lynch earlier in the show, and Eggy Phil. Thanks to you for being in the chat, for listening during the week. Don't forget to give the thumbs up, thumbs down. You think we shit? Like, share, follow us. Not in real life. Do whatever you want. I've been Steve Wellings. We'll catch you all again for episode 391. Same time, same place, same police. Who knows? Depends what we come off with. Same place next week. Bye.